I think we're live.
I think we are
Yes,
live.
we're
I
live.
think we're live.
Yes, we're live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Midweek Geek with me, your old geek, the old geek. I'm your old geek as well. Am I not? Am I not? So I am joined tonight by familiar faces of Bear and Saxius. Others may join us if it's work related and things like that. And everyone's a bit out of sync at the moment because a lot of your clocks have changed at the wrong time. Ours, of course, haven't changed yet because ours changed at the right time. We have people in chat as well. We have there's you, Bear. Hello, Iman. Hello, Straw Piglet. Hello, Mr. Baker, and hello, Daniel. How you doing, fellas? How you doing? Right. So let's speak to my panelists first.
Sure.
Bear, what have you been up to? Games and stuff.
Dude. So we had a Monday night Palladium game that was really good and really fun and really enjoyable. You can watch that on my channel. And then last night we had a Star Trek session that left me scarred forever.
Oh, good.
I literally had a dream about it. That's how insane it was.
Oh, good.
And then tonight I've got Steve Winter, who is one of the writers of the original Marvel Superheroes for TSR, on the Four Color Cafe. Tomorrow night I'm doing a Heroic Mechanics stream with a fellow that I met who's a big Marvel fan, and he's been looking at Heroic and he has some ideas and he wants to discuss them. Friday night I'm doing a Heroic one-shot that we're going to stream live. And then Saturday... nothing going on Saturday. And
No,
Saturday
nothing at all.
It's a personal day for me. I'm just going to... Oh, no, wait, I got to play Palladium with you crazy internet people, so that's going to be fun. Our monthly game.
That's the highlight of our month.
That's good. Session 3. Anyway, that's it. That's what I got going on.
Numero 3. That's a mixture of languages.
Numero 3.
I combined two languages there, didn't I? So
I work with Argentinians, French Canadians, and English people. There are many times in our team chat we will see Sprafanglish happen, which is quite interesting when someone says, bonjour at todos. And you're like, wow, that's 3 in one sentence. Well done.
Yes. Hello, David. Nice to see you. Hello, GM Johnny. Looking forward to playing Palladium on Saturday. I mean, because the hour shift, I'll probably be burping through the first 10-15 minutes because I finish work I finish work around 6 o'clock, so I'll be running home, grabbing a quick bite to eat, and getting online. But
it's not like we expect class from Devere anyway.
Why? Saxius, what have you been up to?
Every game's been cancelled. Well, put on hold. It's meant to run a run shot of luchadors saving a Mexican city from a cyborg coming in to defeat them and steal their masks. No one showed. One player showed up, and the other ones forgot about it. So
wow,
that's all right. I wasn't bothered. So the one guy who showed up, we basically did a bunch of geek talk, had fun with that way, and then I didn't do anything else. The rest of I was just sitting and making a 100 by 100 square map for my Saturday group. They are going through the jungle, and I'm gonna give them a map that they're gonna have to snake their way through. Spotted with a lot of failed experiments committed by the Yon team, and traps and agents and all these good stuff that they're going to have to deal with. They've already found the first failed experiment.
So you use the time productively, anyway.
Yeah, when I try to do something that's at least constructive in my life.
How big is the beheading axe you've got for them? If they, I mean, obviously they're on a warning now, but it's beheading for second offense, isn't it?
I start slow. I just take one of their thumbs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they don't need to use one hand for working. They can still write with the other to keep their stats up. But it's the third warning. That's the point of it. I was like, well, why are you here?
Yeah.
That's when you sell them to the Swedes.
Yeah.
Hello, Tiantori. Hello, Kabuki Kid. David appears to be from your part of the world, Bear.
Yeah, whereabouts in Ontario at, David? I'm in Montreal right now. Where are you located, sir? Charlie, they took my fucking thumbs. No, wait, that's not King of New York. That's is that It's King of New York reference, isn't it? My God,
I
nice
haven't
one,
got a
Kabuki
clue.
Kid.
I haven't got a clue. Timmins, Ontario.
Ah, yeah, Timmins. Oh, yeah, there. Okay, well, I hope everything's going all right up there in Timmins.
There was a bit of Irish in that.
Oh, no, geez, I don't know what you're talking about. That's just the way we sort of talk over here there. You know, that's the way it is. I don't know what this Irish thing you're talking about. I mean, there's a lot of Irish people here, but there's Scots and Brits and people from all over the part of the place. Pope of Greenwich Village, thank you. That's the one.
Right. Right. Anyhow, yeah, I am looking very dwarfish. The beard matches my height now. I've always been dwarf height, so at dwarf stature. So yeah, why not go all in, eh? And I've decided the beard's going to stay until the wife gets me, and it's going to happen soon because as soon as the weather turns, I'll get my hair all trimmed nice and short. My wife does it with with clippers, and she hates the beard. So the first thing she's going to do is go, slipped.
Really,
she hates the beard.
The wife does the hair for you, you lazy sack of bones.
Because she's quite good at doing it. It's grade 2, and then she sort of just does the sides grade 1.
Does she do the top of the head too?
Just the wisps, just sort of snips.
May
the
I
wisps.
recommend, sir?
Yeah,
you're going to
go
bald,
bald.
Get yourself a Phyllis shave. You know what I'm saying? You sit here and
I'm clinging onto my tufts. I'm clinging onto those
dear
tufts.
God,
Don't. Why?
Ooh, Halakar gifted
it's a Halakar. Woo, woo, woo. Now, I've actually got YouTube open on the side here, so I can see Janet from another planet, who is taking part in our drinking stream on Friday.
Is she?
Yes.
When is that?
Yes. Friday night, 9 o'clock, starting 9 o'clock my time. I believe it's 5 o'clock your time now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be me, Mage, Janet from Another Planet, Daniel, Joker, and Squirrel Hermit. And we're going to be playing Drinking Quest.
That is a road trip I would never want to go on. So Daniel Kearney.
Yes.
Well,
yes,
you all lose.
Well, no, you win by gathering experience points in the game.
Oh, I thought you win by staying awake and not passing out drunk.
Well, that's all just part of the game. That's part of the game.
So after you all pass out drunk and he's still going, he'll get all the experience.
Yeah. If that happens, that could happen. Yeah. But last time we played it was good fun. It was good fun.
I don't recognize any of these names other than Janet.
No, I don't either.
Christo Stefan, 1G, Scott Ammo, AJ Simo, Icebox 551 Anthony, Martin Arnold, Robert McCree, Don Ramsey, and Lenny.
Yeah, I don't.
Wow.
Yeah. None of these. I've never seen these names.
A lot of new people.
That's come from this fine gentleman.
Fine gentleman indeed.
A fine gentleman that is Halakar. And here we have joining the stream tonight. Daniel himself.
He's got Helicar's name up. We can't see anything.
It's Daniel himself.
Daniel.
Evening.
Oh my God!
You're going to kick our ass on
okay,
Friday,
Daniel? You sound positively subdued.
I just woke up. Actually, I was dragging ass and I took a nap. I woke up at 25 till 5, and I'm like, "Oh crap! I'm half an hour late." Then I saw it wasn't starting until 5.
Yeah, because your clocks are now wrong. Yes, I will say now as well. Daniel has bought himself a camera especially for Friday.
Wow.
Ooh.
Sadly, I'm busy on Friday, but if I finish up in time, I'll come check out the shenanigans.
Yep, it will be shenanigans. It should be fun. It was fun last time.
My wife is already impressed.
Is that because you only spent about 10 minutes swearing setting it up?
Yeah.
So gaming recently, I know Daniel played. You played with us on Saturday, didn't you, Daniel? During the afternoon, that was a Gingerbeard's game. Yes, it was Gingerbeard that ran this week, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Because Slan ran the week before. But I ran a game last night of Call of Cthulhu, didn't I, Iman? Didn't I, Iman? Iman's lost his first character in Call of Cthulhu.
Did he die?
Died.
Did he cry? Did he cry?
This is the problem of not being able to understand Italian when an Italian gentleman is pointing a gun at you, screaming at you to drop your knife in Italian.
Please tell me that you were saying things in Italian, John. Did you Google Translate that sentence?
No.
Oh,
No.
for God's sake.
No.
Why?
Rank
Why not?
amateur.
Like, come on! Like when I threw my players into Spain, I got up some Spanish sayings. I began speaking Spanish to them. With one of my players just sitting going like, "I have genuinely no idea if he's making it up or if it's real."
I mean, when I ran X2, the module X2, I learned a few French songs for that because I wanted to bring a French bard into it. But that was bad enough. But no.
All right. Iman died because he didn't speak Italian.
Basically, the guy was screaming, "Drop the knife," and Iman went to put the knife back in his belt, and the guy went bang, and had a 30% chance of hitting and rolled 21. Iman failed on his dodge check, and I rolled near maximum damage.
That's
nobody
gonna do it.
Oh, I guess I won't be the first person to kill one of Iman's characters then. Yay.
And then I gave the group plenty of chance to go and help him. And every time they did something else, I made him make a Constitution roll, and they kept doing something else until he died.
I mean, did they know what had happened?
They heard a gunshot. They'd heard a thud.
Right. Okay, but genuinely speaking, like, you hear a gunshot. Yes, I know you're playing as investigators, but self-preservation is going to take a pretty high, it's going to go pretty high up in that priority list. Go on there.
As someone who's worked in protection services, including situations where gunshots have occurred, let me tell you the two reactions humans have when gunshots go off. One, they run like fuck in the opposite direction. Two, they run immediately in the direction of the gunshot to see what the fuck happened.
I'm only speaking from my immediate expectations of
You're
people.
a Dane. You have the ice veins. You don't get to sort of tell us how people behave. You're Danish.
And Andy says it. Andy's right here. He says here one character knew because one character was hiding in the cupboard in the room when it happened.
And we didn't help him. What a bastard!
No, he
staying in the closet.
He chased the guy who shot him and shoved him over the balcony, killing him.
Okay.
I used to think in Cthulhu the most dangerous thing was the Cthulhu shit, not the other members of the party.
For you, we don't care. Yeah.
Ouch.
All right. Let's get back onto the topic, which we are talking about the big cities.
It happened that happened in quite a large city called Milan, which I largely have had to improvise because it is a big city and I'm quite familiar with big cities. What's SOP short for? You burnt everything. Has SOP got something to do with flames?
Standard operating procedure.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. They burnt everything and burnt all the evidence, including Iman's character's body. It was a good session last night.
Standard operating.
Hide
the evidence, including ourselves.
It was a good session last night. It was good fun.
Really?
Well, you had fun.
I wonder if Iman feels the same way about it.
I don't know. Well, his character had was clearly he was on 11 sanity, and he was getting
Yeah.
suicidal dreams and suicidal thoughts, and he went, but quite not in the way he'd planned. He dreamt about throwing himself off a bridge and slitting his wrists and things like that.
Why do these maps never have the year on them? I'm looking up Milan 1930 just to sort of see what the city was like. Sorry, I'm just getting distracted because I'm getting ideas.
They also think they've got
Like
an
you
idea of
do.
what's going on in Milan, so they think, yeah, it's moving now. It's moving. Yeah. And what's going on is not pleasant. Of course, it isn't. It's Call of Cthulhu, and it's Italy. And it's Italy in 1923 when a certain Monsieur Benito Mussolini is rising to power. So fun and games for everybody.
Yes, it was an interesting time in Europe.
Yes, it was. It was. So cities in our games, right? Obviously, I mean, I'm going to start. Until I ran Call of Cthulhu, I didn't run many games in cities. In fantasy games, I generally avoid it. I tend to have much smaller towns and villages where they have to respect the local blacksmith, and they might have one shrine or temple, or they might have one apothecary or one general store, and I think it makes things feel more personal. Plus, I never been particularly happy with my own designing of cities, my own attempts at designing cities when I've tried. So I keep it simple, I keep it small, keep it simple, give it room to develop. But now I'm running a lot more Call of Cthulhu. Most things are set around the 1920s, and they go city hopping, which means I have to blag and bluff my way through cities. But thankfully, I've got some idea of what these much more modern cities are going to be like. So I've got that starting point I can work from. How are you? I mean, going with fantasy, have you lot run games in and around fantasy cities, or have you been a complete wuss like me and shied away?
All right, why stick at fantasy? Let's just open up the entire floodgate because the concepts are going to be the same.
They're not. I don't think they are.
All right.
No. I think there's differences. There's going to be differences.
Let's just stick to fantasy for the old curmudgeon.
Well, no. Go on, Saxius. Go on. Make your point.
We
might.
No, like you set the tone. What do you want us to focus on?
Well, I was going to. No, I mean, firstly, for me, yes, you know that my default fantasy is very much sort of medieval times.
Yeah.
You're talking 1300, 1400.
Yeah.
And a city then was really not what we perceive a city to be now.
Mm-hmm.
We perceive cities to be a lot larger now. A city then would be considerably smaller, considerably more, very compact, very congested. Thoroughfares would have been very narrow between houses, for example. There'd been almost no space in the center of cities back then because everything was very much. Look at what happened with the Great Fire of London, for example. Quite how bad it went because it was so congested. And those were big cities back then, and that was a big city back then, and it was a fraction of the size of what you consider a city to be now. Mm-hmm. So when I see a lot of these, take for example Forgotten Realms, cities like Waterdeep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, with that neat crisscrossing, all those neat crisscrossing streets and the size of it, it doesn't feel authentic to me.
No, it's fantasy.
But I like a bit of authenticity in my fantasy.
Don't go to Waterdeep.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to go to Waterdeep.
And also, while we're at it, don't go to Candlekeep. Don't go to Baldur's Gate. Don't go to any.
Just. City. Well, that's why I would almost recommend if you. Okay, let's stick with fantasy. If you want to take something like fantasy, then open up something. Open up the historical books and find a map of what a city would be. Take a place
York. York.
Take
could be a
York.
good one.
I'm going to take Edinburgh. Take Edinburgh, and let's take something that's going to be different. Edinburgh as a city was built upon a giant slope with the site down and access towards the water, which is one of the key things you're going to find with cities. They have got
Yes.
access to a major form of trade, and that's going to be a center point you're going to have throughout all of these discussions. There's a big city because there's a big traffic of individuals and there's a flow of commerce. Right there, that's one of the key points you're going to find across most of the genres. Fantasy, sci-fi, modern, dystopian, whatever. That if it's a big population of something, there's a big flow of people. So that's the first one. Take again, staying with Edinburgh. When there was, I can't remember the battle exactly, but there was a huge battle where a large portion of the Scottish army and its nobility was all butchered. And the city of Edinburgh basically panicked and they said, right, we need a wall and we need to defend ourselves. So they built a giant wall to defend themselves. And the English never came to sack the city. Well, great. They've got defenses now. Oh no, they can't build out. So now they had to build up. So in the city of Edinburgh, what you will find is that a lot of the houses are built with 4 or 5 stories up, with the intention of this is how we are going to be living now. We are building upwards, and you're going to start finding again the whole thing of like people live upon people, and there's going to be a number of changes to it. And then you're going to have the uniqueness of what each city is going to be different. You're going to, of course, have, if you've got access to the water the docks are going to have their own unique feel. You're going to have where the nobilities, aristocrats, the high lives, all that. You're going to have sections within a town, and that's going to be across the entire thing. You can see it in, Waterdeep, where there's going to be, here's where the nobility live, because they don't want to live in the slums. They don't want to live anywhere near the slums. Yep. You're going to have the merchant areas. You're going to have usually several market squares, because in larger cities, there's going to be multiple squares where people haggle and sell things. And so on and so on. So when I look at what is considered to be a city, if it's going to be a fantasy one, well, pick a setting, pick a aesthetic from history, and then go from there. Like, that's an easy way to do it. Go on, Bear.
So, I mean, you take the city I live in, for example, Montreal, right? It's one of the older cities in Canada. And if you look at it, the eastern end of the island and the sort of almost like the plain of downtown was what was settled first all around the old port, because it was flat, or it was mostly flat. The hill going up, because we have what we laughably call a mountain in the center of our city. It's a giant hill. It only gets developed either by rich people moving up and away from the ports, or as technology got easier to start building up in those higher areas and get supplies up there and do that sort of thing. So it's a thing where they're going to build any city. A medieval city is going to build the easiest part first, is going to fill up, because that's the easiest part to fill up with people. But you're going to get things like, we have a thing called St. Joseph's Oratory, which is right on side of the mountain. Well, when that thing was built, there was next to nothing in that area. It was mostly just woods, So basically that's where their church wanted to be. They wanted to be up as high as possible, looking down on everybody. Right beneath them is an area called Westmount, which is for the longest time one of the richest neighborhoods in Montreal. Well, as they started getting richer and being able to put stuff and build and get up those sides of the hills, build roads and things like that, that's where the rich people all went to build their manors and their mansions, to sort of, again, look down on everybody. So people have to take those types of thoughts into consideration when you're designing a city, is who is going to go where, what is considered premium, what's the hardest stuff to do, and what's the easiest stuff to do. And the easiest stuff to do is going to fill up fast, but it's also going to become a slum faster, because more and more people can flood into it.
Yep.
One thing I think is that, I mean, certainly if I was to sit down and design a city, I think it'd be important. Obviously, you've got to think, yes, why is that city there? And how is that city going to begin?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get town planning back in medieval times. Things grew naturally, organically. You get, there's none of the neat crisscrossing of streets. That's one thing that gets me about Waterdeep. That map has got so much neat crisscrossing of streets.
Yeah.
Roads followed
not.
lands of property. Whoever owned the property would decide whether or not they were going to be willing to sell off a piece of land to the city, and if they didn't, well, then they had to build a curve around that guy's territory, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've got on my screen here an old map of York, and there's a little bit of crisscrossing, but there's lots of little twisty back streets that sort of twist and turn, and it's all very compact. And it's clear that the city itself has grown alongside
Can
the
we
river.
see?
It's not very big, so I'm going to get a bigger one up.
Go on. You should be able to share your screen.
Yeah, I need to get a bigger one up.
Okay, I can share a picture of Copenhagen in the meantime, just so we can have something different, if that's anything we want to look at.
Ooh, Copenhagen.
Yeah. Share Copenhagen, yeah. By all means.
Yeah. All right, I'll share that.
Is Copenhagen on Zealand or is it on the mainland?
It's in Zealand.
It's in Zealand.
Oh, that's quite neatly crisscrossing.
Well, they are
But-
Danes.
But so the thing behind Copenhagen is that this was actually designed specifically. So this
Right.
was a city that was back in. Oh, let me just quickly get my facts here right. It's 4 million. When was it founded again? It's been a while since I've had to look this up. Yeah. Quickly. Although the earliest records of Copenhagen are from the end of the 12th century, some of them has basically been able to dig it all the way back to the about 1020. So if we just assume modestly, like around the 12th century, so 1300s, give or take, that's how early this was. But this was a piece of land that the king basically said, right, we need to control the Baltics because this is the area where Copenhagen specifically is located. I'll see if I can get up this map here and quickly shift over. Is that, whoops, slides, no, not slides, we're not doing a presentation. This one.
I mean, you can
If
do a
we look at-
presentation if you wish.
But if we look at where Copenhagen is based, you're going to be seeing it. It's going to be around this area down here.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
this strait here was very important because this was where you would go down through the Nordic Sea and you'd be coming into the Baltics towards Russia, Poland, Lithuania, Estonia, Sweden, all this area. And then the Danish king back then basically said, right, we need to control this strait because we need to control the flow of goods. And that's why Copenhagen in Old Danish was Købmandshavn, which translates to the harbor of merchants or merchants' harbor. And that's what started it all. And that's why it is so neatly crisscrossed, purely because we need to effectively have, clear, presentation of clear control of it. And you will also see surrounding it is, very clear moats and pitches to again defend it. Because it was a hotly contested area, because Sweden did not like the fact that we suddenly muscled in and said, right, any merchant has to pay us to come in here. They don't have to pay the Swedes, they have to pay us. And you will find it throughout the entire Sealand where I live, is that there are a number of forts placed with guns to this day still pointing at Sweden to stop anyone from going to the Swedish side and having to pay them taxes.
I mean, yes. I mean, the Danes were a major power in Europe around that sort of time. So clearly, they had the foresight to do this.
But we also did later expansions where we brought in the Dutch to claim more land to do this. So we had to be organized for a lot of these things. But that's an example of where, like, early on, there was foresight for it, and there was a purpose, and there was a specific design behind it. But a city such as Edinburgh, again, I'm going to use that, it's more designed like you've got the spine, and then you've got like a fish's ribs going down the side if you actually look at the map of Edinburgh, because that's how it is designed, because you're running down a large slope with the main street going all the way up to the castle of Edinburgh, all the way down to the entry of the keep or of the city, and all this major sections that being crossed along. So that was neatly designed because it had to be as it had to utilize as much of it as possible.
So, nice to see some new names in chat tonight. Gala XXX. Hello, Crafting Gamer. Buckaroo Bonsai. I've heard that name before. What?
Oh, I'm not going to get into it. It's a great name, and I cherish anyone that loves that movie. Except
Right,
it's
okay.
side. It's not bonsai, it's banzai. Bonsai's a tree. But anyway, to answer your question,
no, his name is Buckaroo Bonsai.
yeah, he's a tree.
Yes,
To answer
anyway.
your question, Kabuki, it's considered 1,000 feet to be a mountain in general, though they've stopped using that nomenclature, but that's generally the way to look at it. Mount Royal is 764 feet. It's a hill, but we call it a mountain. Just saying.
So that is
This
York.
is York.
Yes.
That is York.
The son of York.
It's clearly not planned in the same way that Copenhagen is.
No.
No, clearly not. There's a castle on a hill. There's the River Foss and the River Ouse, and there appears to be a little defensive structure down where part D on the map. I haven't got the what all the places are in front of me, but that's how I perceive. As more like how I perceive a medieval city to be. Something that has formed naturally, where there are a couple of rivers, and this is going to be a market town where people from surrounding areas have come in, and it has just grown out. It has just grown out and expanded. And then the castle is built so it's overlooking the town for defensive purposes. Just to me, it's an example of a natural city. But this is medieval York, and it's not very big. York's still not a big city. So,
We have a York in Canada.
Yeah.
Well, Toronto used to be called York.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, that's why it's called York University. Still in that city.
Ah, I didn't know that. I did not know that. But, of course, York was originated in Roman times. It was Iberacum, which might be why they say Ibagum up in York.
Well, you also have like places like Bath, which is an old Roman city.
Aquaesulis, yes.
Yeah. So again, there are a lot of these cities, will originate, depending on how far back we're going to go, because the Romans
Paris was Lutetium in Roman times, or Lutetium, how you pronounce it.
So we agree that there's going to be a multitude of different factors that's going to be building into what makes a city and what the point is. So a bit of background for when we design our cities: was it grown naturally, or was it something that was projected with a specific purpose? These are big things that's then going to be going in for how we would design a city and what sort of background it will then lead on to. And especially, as Blair said, with the movement of especially people, you will see certain areas then developing in specific directions. Whether they.
I can imagine this medieval map of York, G and H in the middle, being the really sort of the where the population is packed in.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the river, that sort of down near P, B, and T down the bottom, I'd imagine that being the slightly more upmarket area.
Well, my question is then C. I assume that's going to be the cathedral.
Yeah, but that'll be York Minster. Actually, that will be York Minster, won't it? Because I assumed that was a castle, but no, it's going to be York Minster Cathedral. Yes.
Well, the main thing I'm thinking of is so for confessions or anything like that, the nobility and the aristocrats would have to travel across and through, the lesser fortunate areas to get to the cathedral. Then working within a fantasy setting, that is, but you're not wrong in principle. That's those with money would want to get away from those without. It's the same thing that you saw in Edinburgh, where the aristocrats would then find ways of walling themselves away and having their own private, not gardens, but private courtyards in an area that was very difficult to have, land.
Mhm.
But equally, yeah. So yeah,
So yes, first thing when you design a city, what is the purpose? Why is it there? Is it the sort of place where it will form naturally, or is it somewhere like Copenhagen, for example, where it has been built for a purpose? Think about that purpose, if need be, because
and
in my opinion, when I'm running games nowadays, I would say about 70 to 80% is improvised. Players going to places that I'm not expecting, or things where I've just got little tables and charts to work things out that I haven't got decided before time. And it makes it much easier for me to improvise on the fly if the place that I'm improvising has some grounding in a reality that I'm familiar with. This is why I'm not very good at high fantasy stuff.
Okay, if I may just go back to the point I wanted to make at the very beginning, because I think we've arrived at it. You can see like the core concepts of, what makes a city, what's the purpose of it, what's the background, and so on. That's what I see when we talk about cities, and these are concepts that are not limited just to fantasy. These are things that we see moving into modern day, and that can easily be applied into a sci-fi setting. And you don't even have to say like, oh, it's on a planet. It can be the same with a space station. You're going to have a similar sort of, development, although a space station will still be more architecturally minded. That will, especially if it's a hybrid or a flotilla, there can be a lot of like makeshift and homemade add-ons for something like that. So that's why I think that what we might be discussing today is something that can be a lot more across genre, rather than just being focused specifically on fantasy.
I mean, that's true. I know from my experience, the one sci-fi game that I enjoy running is Paranoia, but I do have a problem picturing it. I lean on the artwork for my ideas of what it might look like, because I don't watch sci-fi stuff. I've got no idea what it's like to live in Alpha Complex, and I do find that a little bit awkward. I'm much better at describing action than locations when it comes to Paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when it comes to something like Call of Cthulhu, I find it much easier to describe locations because everything's so much more familiar.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, I know you guys do play sci-fi. I mean, I'm guessing you draw from your sources of inspiration, the likes of Star Trek and Firefly and all that sort of stuff.
I lived in Shanghai for 8 years, which was a city of, when I arrived, it was 15.6 or 8 million people. When I left, it was 22 million people. Wow. That's my inspiration. I lived in a city that had more people in a small city state than my entire country, 5 times over.
That's my idea of hell.
Well, I lived there for 8 years. I got to love it. But that when it comes to like, this is what a big city is like. Well, a big city, like a real big city, never sleeps, and you can do something 24 hours. There's always something you can do.
But that's even true in a medium-sized modern city, right? I mean, I've lived in Montreal, which is, if you take in the entire area of Montreal, it's about 4 million people now. And I lived in Vancouver, where you took in the entire population there was about 2.5, 3 million. There's lots of stuff to do at 3, 4, or 5 in the morning. It was just the way it is.
Yeah.
Bigger the city, the more there's going to be, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of a cool thing. Sci-fi, though, I don't worry about it unless I'm doing a cyberpunk game.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like, the city is irrelevant in a sci-fi game unless the game is about the city, which is what cyberpunk is.
It's a backdrop.
Yeah, it's a background. It's not important. Superheroes, very important.
Oh yeah,
Very, very important.
super.
Unless you're doing global heroes that are always running around from place to place to place and never
No.
worrying about where they're being. But if you're in a city, if you're the protectors of a city or you're a superhero team in that city, well, the city's going to be important, and you can put all your cool stuff that you need in there, all your encounter locations, your weird stuff. And if you ever want to read or see the best superhero city ever designed, pick up the Astro City comics by Kurt Busiek, because he basically creates a superhero city. So it has elements of Gotham, it has elements of Metropolis, New York, Boston, blah, 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 blah. There's some good stuff you can find for games and Mutants and Masterminds. They have Freedom City's not bad. There's another one called San Angeles, which was done for Champions originally, which is a very popular supplement as well. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the city becomes the stomping ground, right? The place protected. And you can even divide it up like New York and Marvel. If you look at Marvel Comics, New York City is a big city, but it's not a big city. You know what I mean? Like it's a big city population and building size, but actual physical space, it's, Manhattan's a very narrow chunk of real estate. But they'll do stuff like have Daredevil running around Hell's Kitchen and never running into someone who normally prowls the Lower East Side, even though they're only maybe like, a mile and a half, 2 miles from each other. You know what I mean? Like it's this weird sort of thing that happens in a superhero game, is that it becomes a very territorial type thing, right?
Yeah.
But then again, Central Park is bigger than the country of Monaco. So that's either a really big park, or, let's be honest, Monaco's a really small country,
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Well,
both can be true.
Both. Why not both?
Yeah.
Yes, why not both?
I am arranging a delivery to Monaco, so yeah, it's funny you bring that up.
And by the way, Kabuki Kid, there is no such other type of cop in Montreal. They're all dicks here.
Straw Piglets. I mean, I'm going to answer Straw Piglets' question here. For me, yes. When I ran a AD&D second edition campaign, I would not describe the locations as cities. They were towns. But I put a lot of thought into why things were where they were. For example, there were 3 towns. One was the main town, which was fishing, a road leading out to the second town along the river that they both sat on. The smithy was in the second town because that had hills a little further up the river, and they were using the river to bring ore down, and that's where the smithy would be. The smaller village was more a place for farming and orchards, and there would be a boat. What's a boat maker, shipwright?
Yes, shipwright.
Not ships. They're little boats. But there was a bridge going across, and I put carpenters and shipwrights just there to maintain boats. And of course, there was a shipwright near the docks of the first town, because it's got to service the boats. It's handy having it near the boats. And I thought about the placements of everything, and then dotted farms around the outside. So yeah, for me, it's important to have those. And I had inns. Inns, for example, were on the main thoroughfares in and out. One in the main market square, maybe one near the entrance to the big largest town on the main thoroughfare. That sort of thing. Just thinking about their locations, thinking about how people would get to them and why they would be where they were. It's partly because I've got a degree in geography as well, and I'm an absolute pedant when it comes to things like that.
You don't say.
So something that drives me insane when I watch a fantasy movie or a fantasy series on TV is when I see the castle and they approach the castle, and it's nothing but rolling green hills or verdant forests leading up to this medieval city and the walls. And I'm like, do you know how many fucking people would be crammed up against those walls, even in a shanty town, if they didn't let them build something real? This was a constant fucking problem they had when they were dealing with that shit. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to bring up, like, there was a fun project that some historians, and I don't know who they wrote into it, but they basically said, let's build a very small fort. And they were going to use nothing but medieval technology. And they quickly found, like, this is not something we do like in a few weeks. Like this is going to be months
Yeah.
worth of it. So they then went out and they had to build the houses and everything.
Yep.
So when someone builds, let's say, a fort or a tower or something major, they would usually have a small hamlet that would crop up for the support of it, which then attracted, because the workers weren't going to live there on their own. They're going to bring their wives, their families, and they're going to start plowing the land. That's how it all begins. I'm going to be a logistical nerd because there's an entire, ecosystem for supporting it. And it's one of the reasons for when we have situations such as the Lone Castle, they are a small stone throw away from the nearby logistical hub or the area that provides them with food. I mean, Calais in France, there's not too far away from where it is. There is an old English fort that was fiercely protected by the English. It didn't have a village around it, but that's because all the food was generated behind their lines that would then bring it up to them. There's a lot of thought being put into it. So yes, I agree with Bear. Where are the farmers? Because they are the ones that really are the makeshift of a place like that, and it's why the Lord would have a place like that there to control area and to defend, something important.
Yeah.
I'm just having a look to see if I've got my files, still got my files online for the ones I designed. I'm going into my Roll20 at the moment.
Well, in the meantime, I'll just sort of harp on about things that we want to see from cities. Just go on, Bear.
Well, something I'd like to harp on a bit myself is when I was designing Kingsgate, which was a town, but designed to be a fully functioning town as a frontier town. I had a really, really, really hard time outside of actual city planning, medieval documentation, and people who are doing their fucking doctorate degrees on this stuff. Nowhere in the RPG community could I find a reasonable what needs to be in this town. Like there needs to be a Cooper, there needs to be a this, there needs to be a that. How many Coopers would there be in a town? Like how many Smiths should there be in a town? I could find zero useful information in the D&D fantasy RPG stuff. Well, they could tell me how many fucking mages I needed. But they couldn't tell me how many goddamn, horseshoe makers I needed. You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean. I ran into something similar. What I ended up doing was that I opened up the old Pendragon books because there is a small expansion, but I went absolutely autistic about it. Where it describes how you build and manage a city because you are knights. And then there's the whole problem of population issues. And you can't just sit there and have, a what's it called? A horse breeder, a blacksmith, and just stack up all of these things because you require people to do it. You require skill and you need commerce to grow them. And I brought this into my game, and before I knew it, I wasn't playing Pendragon. I was playing Crusader Kings Pendragon, and my players took this thing and they went mental, absolutely crazy. It was about who is marrying who and all of these things. So to go back to your point, I will have to really dig through my files, but there is a very rough idea for how you would have to do size of city versus commerce to basically calculate how many major installments that you would have. So you would be able to have, let's say you have got a population of, let's say, 150 families, and each family then consists of something like, let's say, 6 people. Then you've got a decent sized start. You might be able to say, right, that's how much you have. That's how many families there are divided by the 2 of them. You will end up having, let's say, four installments that you can have, and then you have to pick that, and then you have to be careful about which one is a commerce, which one is a construction, and so on and so on. But it limits you as a DM, but it also gives you the flavor of the town. What does this town produce? What can it make? And then what do they need to import, export? So sorry, yes,
but you're right, and so Harn had a little bit of that helped a little bit, but it wasn't much. And I think it's like, and I went, and the worst part is I went and I made the mistake of asking in a D&D face group broker, and Jesus Christ, all I got was like, well, you need this many clerics and this many wizards, and I'm like, how many gong farmers do I need? Is there a gong farmers guild? Like, Jesus Christ. And even Harn, which is good, it's buried. It's hard to find, or maybe one specific book I haven't picked up or something. So I just gave up at the end of the day. Like, I was really disappointed by the whole thing, and I just started using my own brain and what I could read online from medieval stuff to get where I needed to go. But I wanted that resource. I still, to this day, want the city builder's guide that's actually a useful city builder's guide, and not, this is where the wizard's tower go, and then you might have kobolds living in your weird French sewer in your medieval English town. Like, what the fuck,
No,
weird French sewer? What weird French sewer?
One of the things I've noticed that is commonplace in fantasy cities that are designed for fantasy campaigns.
Sewers
like they're like France, like Paris. You know what I mean? With the catacombs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The catacombs were never sewers.
No, but that's where a lot of the sewage went. So
yeah.
A lot of people,
they were never sewers. They were mines, and they became.
Shut up, John.
We know, you fucking nerd.
Go on, Bear. Finish your point.
We don't have a really good example of, hey, this is what you have to do to get rid of the waste in your medieval city. Because everybody's got these fucking kobold-infested sewers under their cities that are just building sewers and traps, and it's all great adventuring, and it's fun, and it's woo-hoo-hoo. But man, even the Romans had open sewers. You know what I mean?
Aqueducts.
Yeah.
That was a huge thing. I think it was also used by some of the Germanics. I steal inspiration from the video game Kingdom Come Deliverance, where I revisited my entire social hierarchy in my medieval genres, and I've reintroduced things like knackers and the people who has to go and carry the shit from the outhouses out and away, and the people who then have to go and collect the dung from animals and bring them back to the farmers so that they can be used for fertilization. These things that would be needed, dirty jobs. And So sewers.
RPG Dad says it's dinner time. He's talking about homemade steak, mashed potatoes, and we're talking about sewage. Enjoy, RPG.
Sure.
Well,
that's where that's all going to wind up anyway. So
Yeah. Andy asked a question about, do we take into account magic when we design cities? I don't, because I tend to run low magic.
It depends. It depends if we are high fantasy. It depends if we are low fantasy.
Yes.
So if we're high magic or low magic, to be more exact. Yeah, sorry. So I have I redesigned Waterdeep, and I said I am gonna make Waterdeep into Megacity 1, and I'm gonna inject a lot of magic into that and see how that turns out. It was fun, and I realized that make that as a backdrop and give that as an idea to the players, and then it became less about, hey, we're gonna go adventuring out in the city. The city is now the big adventure. The sewers, because they have been tunneled by magic in such a high fashion.
No, sewers, no, not in a medieval game.
Medieval game with high magic, John? Yes, I dare believe so.
Hey, John, your favorite, your dwarves that you love so much that like to drink and fight and talk like Scotsmen. Well, they went in and built the sewers for them on a great contract, and it's a miracle of engineering with high vaulted ceilings and running water and all types of stuff.
Incredible insights from the gnomes and their higher intellects.
They then hired the local kobolds to keep the sewers clean and free of vermin, and the kobolds love it because they get to put traps everywhere and just keep doing their koboldy stuff. So it's all working out there for you, John. Them sewers.
Yeah. My point being,
I don't put sewers in any of my medieval towns or cities.
That's fine. You do you, John.
Exactly.
My players absolutely had a ball because they would then have the backdrop of this high magic, high fantasy, mega city one where there was I think I said there was something like a population of 4 million people living here with an insane agricultural support, all supported, all held up because magic. There you go. That was the crux for the entire thing. It's like there's magic everywhere. Here's a bunch of things. We're gonna be playing this in however it went. And I told the players, whatever class you pick, you have to have a day job. So one person said, "Well, I am now a barrister." Another person went, "Well, I am actually a scribe for the local, what's it called, Wizards Guild." So I'm a fledgling wizard, not even a novice. I just copy all the scrolls that they tell me to copy, and then that's my job.
I have a question for you, Sax.
Go for it.
Now, dentistry.
Yes.
Medieval dentistry in our world was fucking nightmares.
Yeah.
But in a world where Cure Light Wounds exists, would various churches be potentially competing for the dental market?
See, that's what I would agree with, because now we're looking at almost like a mirror of our own world, because now the churches are basically they're having to like use the divines of the healings, and it depends. Yeah, I'd say so. I can see that.
Bugger, I got a sore tooth, off to the clerics I go.
Exactly.
300 gold, it was 200 last time, you know, like, I mean, you know.
It looks like I'm converting. I'm going to go down for the other.
I'm going to go to the evil church across the street and convert.
Exactly.
Like,
I'm trying to remember which profession it was that dealt with most dentistry.
The blacksmith, the cobbler.
No,
anyone who had a set of tools that could yank things out.
Yeah.
I think it was barbers and
Barbers is the
places like
Old
that.
West. The Old West was
What?
barbers for sure.
Yeah. That because they did everything. Because
Doc
they also
Holliday
did.
was a dentist.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yes, Elfbait, I do agree that believable and consistent does win over historically accurate. I try and keep that basic accuracy to help my own consistency. That's the thing. In order to make me consistent, I have that. I have a grounding that feels right for me. And how am I going to do low level where at adventures, Mark? They're more likely to find their way into tavern cellars, brothels, places like that.
The
Places that
barn.
can be described as barns, yes. Places that can be described as cesspits, but not sewers, because sewers don't exist.
I'm just hearing
And
denial. John, you're in denial.
well, also gong farmers though in a city without sewers make a lot of money cleaning out the gong pits and selling that to the farmers.
Yeah.
Or the alchemists.
Was
Or the herbalists, or the other people who, or the laundry who use the urine to create bleach. You know,
if
things
my
like that.
memory serves me right, in Rome, it was a hotly competed contract for who could get to clean up the streets of the nobility. Because back then, we didn't have sewers in Rome back then. It would just be a pot that you would throw out the window, but that had to be cleaned up. So the slaves would come and collect it and then sell it to the farmers. And there was a hotly competed contract for who could clean up the noble district because of how, enriched their diets were in comparison.
Think about that.
Yum. They were lovely places, cities. Disease.
Well,
Rats.
going back to Edinburgh, 15 miles away, you could smell the city. Because they didn't have a sewage system, but they still used the old method of a piss and shit in a pot, throw it out the window. That was a genuine system that they had when I visited Edinburgh that they were informing me about. And the thing was, the entire rule was shout out the window at least 10 seconds before you dump it.
Gardaloo. Gardaloo. Is what they
Yeah.
used to shout. That's why the toilet became known as a loo in Britain.
Mhm.
Because they used to shout Gardaloo, which means look out below.
Yep. But so they also tried to change it and said, no, you're only allowed to do it like 5 or 6 times a day. And then they said specific times. That didn't work because then on those times exactly, it just flooded the entire areas. It was disgusting.
This is why the Glaswegians talk like this. It's because the smell they had to hold in their breath in Glasgow. So, they knew better.
So taxis, the taxi service also originates from Edinburgh, because when you arrived in Edinburgh, the streets would change their names regularly because the most important person on a street would have the entire street named after them. So if a judge lived in a street, that would be named after them, and it would now be the street of Judge, I don't know, Mackenzie or whatever. And it would sort of continue like that. So you would need to, when you arrived and you were a foreigner, you need to hire a cappy that would then know the local area, and he could take you places, and he would remember all the different streets and what they used to be called.
I was just laughing at
Stuff like this is the stuff that, like, it could be either, as Eli was saying earlier, it's too much detail and you're overthinking things, or it could be the stuff that makes the world come alive if your players engage with it. Right?
It's a thing that, again, I would drop it in, and if the players are like, oh, what time is it? Like, if they suddenly start to remember it, then great, I will play into it.
Sure.
But it's a two-way street. So either the players enjoy it and I will build on it, or they will go like, I don't care, and then fine, drop it, move on.
Yeah.
I would like you to read that first chapter, first paragraph.
The Erfurt latrine disaster occurred on the 26th of July, 1184, when Henry VI, King of Germany, later Holy Roman Emperor, held a Hoftag. Hang on, I got to put my glasses. Hang on. Jesus, you got it so small, and I'm an old man. Held a Hoftag, informal assembly of the Cathedral Provostry in Erfurt. On the morning of 26th of July, the combined weight of the assembled nobles caused the wooden second-story floor of the building to collapse, and then most of them fell through into the latrine cesspit below the floor, where about 60 of them drowned in liquid excrement. This event is called the Erfurter Latrinenstrunz in several German sources. That's disgusting. Thank you.
That's how I would end up going out.
Well, don't you work in sewage, DK?
Well, I clean shitters, yeah.
Yeah, so don't you, like, you're technically a modern gong farmer?
Pretty much. Yep. Yep.
So yes, that's what sanitation was like in the 12th century. There was a pit below that cathedral where all the crap went, and all the rich people fell into it and drowned.
That's funny. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to look that up.
I think there's been several other instances of like knights tripping over camp tents and the ropes they used to hold them up, and falling into basically dug in holes that was meant to be basically toilets. Anyway, we're getting into some disgusting.
We are.
We're in the shit now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we're up Shit's Creek.
So obviously, a city as a setting for a game probably has more opportunity for plot hooks, interesting NPCs, side quests, all the good stuff than almost any other setting. Now, that's quite a bold statement. Am I right or am I wrong?
What restate it properly? What was the bold statement?
A bold statement. A city as a setting, a city in a role-playing game probably has gives you more opportunity for role-play, plot hooks, side quests, intrigue, all that sort of stuff than any other location.
Will not argue. My Kingsgate game, which finally I ended, thankfully, they went out of the city once, made it to the dungeon location, did some stuff, went back to the city because someone got hurt, and then spent the next 7 sessions finding reasons not to leave the city, constantly going and talking to people. And I mean, it was just like, Jesus Christ, guys, this is just meant to be a place where you hang out before you go out and kill things, But no. They wanted to stay in the city because they could role play, they could do this, they could do that. They were, You're right, you're not wrong. It's it's like a Starbase in a sci-fi game. It's a great location to have tons of stuff happen.
I'll go back to my previous statement. Living in Shanghai, 24 hours, 24/7. Like, I could do something at any given point. Like, yes, there's always something that will happen in a city. There's always individuals that you can engage with. There's always something that can go on. It's a major plot center. And again, using a city like Copenhagen, where you're going to have a lot of merchants, there is just so much that you can do there. And where did my little book go?
Elfbait said earlier about as well about minutiae and whatever. It's when you prepare a city for that sort of adventure, you've got to get the generalities right. But if you over focus on the minutiae, you just tie yourself into knots.
I don't think so. I disagree with that. I think
just
if
read-
you're the kind of person who enjoys world building and you enjoy that kind of creation, then the only pleasure you're going to get out of it is what you're getting out of it, and that's fine. If the players ignore it, so be it.
I approach my games with I will prepare 100%. Everything that I prepare is 100%. 90% of it won't be seen by the players. The other
Agreed.
10% is what they deal with. But it is for me as the DM.
Exactly. And I would rather, when they do go to that one weird thing that you didn't expect them to do, to be prepared and ready and have something, as opposed to having to pull it out of my ass on the site.
I agree. I made a major decision like a year and a half ago for how I was going to be running my snake people, the Yonti. I made it very clear, like, here's how they work. And twice I've had my players ask the one question that was the right question at the right time that made them push majorly ahead in the plots. And it was so enriching for me to have that prepared. And it was very enriching for them to feel that they have asked the right question at the right time because they feel that they want something. Anyway, I want to bring up a little book that I have, which features Copenhagen quite heavily, which is called by Osprey Publishing, The Scandinavian Baltic Crusades from 1100 to 1500, wherein the crusade was launched basically into the Baltics to defeat the Lithuanian pagans and the Estonian pagans and just any pagans east of Poland. And you find that Copenhagen was a centerpiece of a lot of trade and a lot of the logistics going further on into the Baltic. As I said, Denmark had set it up specifically to capture the trades coming in there, and it became a massive power place because of this, because a lot of the Crusaders would have to stop there and move on, which would be a huge thing for players, because imagine all of the quests that would be coming their way for anywhere from we need to acquire these items for our big combat to we need mercenaries, all the way over to we need you to bring goods back home to somewhere else, and you can do a lot with that.
As with last week, talking about mass battles, there's often possibly a little bit of sort of steering by me with these topics and whatever, and that's because this is something I am having to. I'm going to enjoy it, but I'm going to have to prepare. And this map I'm showing you here is from Up. This is the city of Tharbad.
Of where?
Tharbad. It's the biggest city in Cardalan. And it's a shithole. Absolute shithole. And this is the sort of place where there's so much going on, the party could spend a year here, depending on how much they want to engage with. But it's an absolute bugger to prepare. There's a lot going on. And I'm going to try and avoid preparing the minutiae, the minor details, and think more about what's going on and what sort of interactions between the people are happening, because that's going to have to be more important. Because in order to prepare it thoroughly will be very, very difficult. And I'm lazy. And there are no sewers. There are no sewers.
That's fair.
But if you look what we're saying about shanty towns and whatever, there, look, big shanty town out the top.
Well, yeah. Nothing drove me more insane than looking at Jackson's Lord of the Rings when they're coming up to Minas Tirith, and it's like, where are the farms? Where are these people getting food from? Like,
yeah,
it made no sense.
Yeah, and Tharbad basically grew up around this central island in the middle of the Guaflo. And then you got thieves' quarters, commons. There are walls.
This from Merp.
This is Merp, yes,
Mhm.
yes. It's very nice, though, isn't it? Very pretty.
Yeah, I used Tharbad once. Bridges. There's something that drives me nuts in fantasy games.
Go on.
Well, every bridge you ever see in a fantasy game, for the most part, not all, but for the most part, or in a major city, or in even the TV shows and all that, is designed like they're going to have cars going on it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And then you look at the old paintings of London Bridge, and it was like there were buildings on it, there were, shops, there was all kinds of stuff going on those bridges.
Yeah.
Yep.
Isn't that like kind of like I know in Italy it was common for that type of stuff. Isn't that just a common medieval thing to have people building stuff on a bridge and trying to live on the bridge, catching the traffic coming in and out?
It was huge marketplaces as well. Like the bridges would then be like, okay, it's not just a bridge; it's a genuine marketplace. You go there, you set up your shops because you're going to go from one point to the next point. That's a chance for me to get your money. You're exposed now, sir.
Yeah.
You need these cantaloupes.
I mean, yeah, look at
Buy
that
my
bridge. Look at that southern bridge. There's stuff on it, as you say.
Yeah, exactly.
And think of it like
Straw Piglet's trying to force me. Straw Piglet's trying to force me to roll a sanity check here.
All right. Anyway, pointing over towards The Witcher, for example, if anyone, for those of you who have played the video game, Oxenford has got on one of the bridges. There are no buildings on it. However, there's a very clear gatehouse to then raise it up. And bridges are not just they're there for transportation, but they're also there for defenses.
Yes.
One of the castles that I visited in Denmark, they had intentionally made a bridge that was S-shaped because they wanted to then funnel and slow down a charge. If you are going to be coming from the outer walls into the inner walls, you had to be slowed down. And rather than allowing someone to then bring out a cannon and just simply doing a grape shot against the next gates, you then had to do it at an awkward angle. There you go.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a really good idea.
Right? It's like the main gate to the castle never goes directly into the courtyard in the real world. It actually does this whole sally port thingy, and that was the design to prevent people from just charging straight into your goddamn castle or keep, right?
Yeah, exactly. And having drawbridges, it was a huge thing. I mean, it was one of the reasons for why, if you could get a skilled climber to get his way up there and then just cut off, the whatever it was that was holding it down, that was half of the work done. The rest was just, beating down the doors, which usually wasn't that difficult when the enemy actually closed the distance. And yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can go on, but I'd like to let other people go on.
Clearly, you could go on.
I sit in my own little world here and go like, let's go through the logical steps of all these things.
Zach's going to start his own YouTube channel where he just reads his notes to us.
Yes, and shows us his spreadsheets. In chat, they're starting to mentioning one add-on pack, one supplement that I didn't get. And that's the Lankmar stuff. I've got one Lankmar module. I never got the actual full Lankmar stuff.
Ever got the book?
I mean, I read half of Fritz Leiber's.
No, the AD&D perfect bound thick Lankmar.
No, I never got that one. Never got that one. Sadly, it came out after I really stopped buying a lot of modules and stuff. I had enough to be working with. So and I've not picked it up since, but I'm guessing. I mean, I know there was a City State of Invincible Overlord, which was Judges Guild and 1970s, but Lankmar came out in what 86, 87, so it was 10 years or so roughly before TSR put out a proper city for D&D, and I can only remember what.
No. Because you had Pelennor in the UK stuff. So there had been proper city. It had just been in the UK dragon stuff and all that. It had been the Pelennor thing, which you can now find online collected by.
That was in White. That was in White Dwarf, was it?
I don't know. I think it was something to do with TSR UK or something like that. Or
Imagine magazine.
Imagine, that was an Imagine magazine.
When would that have come out? When would that have
It's in
come
the
out?
80s. I think it was in the 80s, Pelennor. I'll look it up. You keep talking, I'll look it up.
Right. See, I don't remember it. I mean, I only remember one proper city module them producing, which was B6, the Veiled Society, and that was a very linear story adventure set in Specularum. I thought other attempts at large towns or cities were somewhat lacking. You had the one in Temple of Death, which was pretty crap. The good adventure, but pretty crap city. And then there was the one in A3, which was not a proper city and was utterly undeveloped. And they did villages well. Village of Homlet, Village of Orlane, the villages in the Lendor Isles that skip my mind at the moment. The names, but anything bigger than that felt really lacking, really unhelpful, to be honest.
I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, I'll knock mine off.
Well, don't knock it off in front of everybody.
Hey.
So this is someone made a PDF of all the
Imagine.
articles.
Yeah.
It was from Imagine magazine. This thing's 69 pages long, and it's the City League is what they call it. And basically they break down the whole nation of Pelennor and then the City League itself for adventures with maps of buildings and what have you. And there's been a fan revival of it. You can find a really nice one online where they took all the material and they modernized it and updated it. Like really nice inns and stuff like that, and the politics of the land and all this kind of stuff. It's really nice. Like it's a really interesting thing. It's I don't know. It's worth the time to give it a read. They did a really good job of it. And what I will do, there's you want to give that to your viewers. They can go download the PDF of that themselves right there. You can copy and paste that link over if you want. But you'll have to look around, guys, for the updated version because I don't know where that is. I have a copy of it, but I don't know where it is anymore. They did a really nice job updating it and modernizing it.
I shall bung that out because I'm assuming it's not produced anymore.
Well, Imagine has been out of print for how long? Since the 80s, right? They only did 30 issues of that magazine, right?
What was it? I'm guessing that was sort of mid-late 80s as well, Imagine.
This would have been about mid-run. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I didn't see Imagine magazine in my local game shops. I know it existed.
I didn't even know.
I knew it existed, but I didn't see it.
So had I known at the time and had it been available at one of my hobby shops in Montreal, I would have bought it for sure.
The guy who'd done some of the map images there was the guy who had worked on the UK series. His map style I recognise.
Mm.
UK series of modules. Imagine was 83 to 85.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's when I was collecting AD&D modules and focusing on those. I wouldn't have even been looking for magazines at that point. All my pennies went on modules, AD&D hardbacks.
Well, I love magazines. I used to buy White Dwarf, Challenge, and Dragon every month. I was buying them. To this day, it's still something about if I had like one of those win the lotto moments, what would you buy? I'd buy up collections of every role-playing magazine from the 80s because there's so much good stuff, especially for cities, in those magazines written by fans and people who really, would do some deep dives on that stuff for you.
Cool. Hello, Gene. How you doing? So yeah, that's Pelennor, something to check out. The link is there. If I'm not allowed to post it, then don't care.
Too late.
Oops. It's out there. Oops.
Oh, no.
I slipped. So Bear, one of your favorite games, Marvel superheroes. As you were saying, superheroes set in cities.
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
They had some interesting maps, didn't they, in Marvel superheroes? I mean, yes, they focus on small locations generally.
Yeah, but they had those big street maps that were very useful.
Yeah.
They were not useful. They took up way too much table space, and the arbitrary area system was kind of garbage. Now, I have my own city that I'm working on.
I quite like them.
Will be published at some point as well. I know people love them, and they sell for big money, and I have a bunch of them, but I never used them really at the end of the day. It was just too much of a, I don't know, it's too much of a headache. You know what I mean? I would rather, we only played Theater of the Mind for the most part back in the days anyway. So
see, that was different for me with D&D. When we played Marvel Superheroes, we didn't play Theatre of Mind. We used those maps and we used those spaces.
of course you did.
Because I always do things that's different to you and do the opposite.
So
To
to
be
give you an
bloody-minded.
idea of how autistic I am for my city design, my city is called Capital City. And I mean, I have the subways mapped out. I have landmarks, you name it. I even started doing like the different newspaper headers, so I know what newspaper they're reading, what they are. I did local grocery store chains, logos, and restaurants and stuff like that. Like I get really into it, and as a result, I've created a pretty decent city that I have way too much to write to make it presentable, but I know the city and my players learn the city as they play in it. And I was, they pick the neighborhood, what kind of neighborhood do you want to be from? Oh, okay. Well, then this would be this choice, or this choice. And they have all the information they need. And I won't bother showing it off because that would just be, laughable. But it is something that matters. The city, if you're playing a city level superhero game, the city matters. If you're playing the Justice League of America, the city does not matter because 1 minute your fight's going to be happening in Kuala Lumpur, the next minute it's going to be happening in Death Valley. So it doesn't matter when you're moving around the moon. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I prefer a lower type of campaign, so I like city. City matters to me.
What tools do you use to draw cities?
Photoshop.
Photoshop.
Yeah, my maps don't look like proper city maps. They look like what I need them to look like. I eventually have to find someone who's good at doing a sort of a Rand McNally type city map type thing, or an old gas station city map. You just go buy those maps for 50 cents. You unfold them to be the map of the city with all the bus routes and everything. I want to eventually find someone who can do that and pay them money to draw that for me. Nothing would make me happier than to have Capital City up on my wall. That would just be like, yes, thank you.
See, I try to hand draw my towns and cities where possible.
For medieval, that's fine.
When I'm playing online, they're either my scanned drawings, which I was looking for. They're on my other computer downstairs, unfortunately. Or I try and use Incarnate, but Incarnate is not great for city maps. I've seen, not great for city maps when you've got my level of ability. My lacking level of ability with it. I have seen some people have made some very nice stuff with it, but I just don't have the patience.
Very nice, very nice. Yes. Yeah, I feel you on that. I learn and learn and learn and learn. And it's funny. It's through creating role-playing material that I have, as a result, learned how to use Photoshop because I had to learn. And that's what I did. So I taught myself. Justin, go eat Taco Bell.
What's going on, Daniel?
I don't know.
My son just got back from weightlifting, so I'm telling him to rehydrate and get electrolytes in him.
Not Jack Daniels.
No.
No.
No, hopefully never.
It's got electrolytes.
So, Saxius, when you draw cities, how do you go about it?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't draw cities. I don't have the artistic part of it, so I go on and I just find some of the generated maps. And I go, here's what I need. And I just keep on clicking refresh until I get in the rough area. Then I do any form of adjustments. Go, that's what I need. Because at the end of the day, if I need something that's going to be that specific,
I've seen that there is a website which has got like it generates you random cities. You can put in various parameters. Yes.
Don John is one of them.
Don John, that's the one. Yes.
Yeah, that's the one I like.
Yeah,
to go
that would literally trigger my OCD to the point of hysteria.
Yeah,
because it'd be like it's almost there, but it's not quite right.
Yes.
Well,
It's just they just don't feel authentic enough for me. They feel a little bit too random. But...
Well, yeah, but like I don't have what the two of you have. I'm able to just sort of go like, this is close enough, and I don't care about the rest, and I'll then sort out anything from there. But when it comes to the moment we talk about logistics, you just see me go, yeah.
Yeah. You also have what the two of us don't have, which is hair. So that works out. So we got the art, you got the hair.
Someone has to be the pretty face.
It's usually Daniel, but his camera's off.
Yeah, I didn't feel like thinking with it.
Yeah, let me have some limelight. Just for the
All
day.
right, you mad Dane, you.
Just
Yeah.
Matt Barry, you can imagine me is just a shorter version of Saxius.
A
Pretty much.
shorter
Only-
version of Saxius.
Only I have my beard has more gray in it.
I don't. Can we stop this game now, please? I don't want to be playing this game anymore. I don't want to be imagining what you look like. No.
Yeah. Saxius in
Anyways.
20 years' time.
Who knows? I mean,
Who
I did
knows?
one, whatever. So when it comes to generating the maps, generally speaking, I often focus on like what is the region map, and then take it from there. Where's the cities and so on. If I really need a city map, I will use one like Donjon and any of the other sites to generate that. But I find that for the players, it isn't that important for them. They just need a rough idea of like, can we go here? Does it have that? Like, what's the general insights? And then from there, the players are just able to picture the rest in their mind. It's very few groups I've had that said like, no, we need to have a map of this. We need to be able to have this. And yeah, it's usually about the regions for me.
Where's the city generator on Donjon? Where was it? Has anyone in chat not seen Donjon?
I think it's son Don Johnson, author
Yeah.
of Dakota Johnson.
See that?
So my
It's
advice.
that one's. It's just too regular. That is just too.
We
regular.
can't see it. You're talking
We
to
can't see
clouds.
anything.
I know it's crap. That's why
So show us the crap.
it's crap.
It's no squash.
Yeah.
It's crap.
Let me just get it displayed out there. But this is what Donjon produces. Share screen, share window or screen. There it is. That's what it's just spewed out for me straight away. It's too regular.
Right. I've just found the one I normally use. If I may share my screen. Just waiting for John to turn down his, if I may.
Oh yeah. No, you
Well, I could do it at the meantime. I'll try.
yeah.
So there's what about
Oh, that's better.
.io. This is one that you can do. Then you can go in menu, new city warp. You can go in and say like, I don't want this. Move that around here. This has to be moved over this direction or whatever. Yeah,
That's
What I have
better.
this-
Isn't it? Yeah.
out that
Yeah.
direction. It'll just keep going with whatever distance you wanted to. Just generate it around like that. However you want it to be
That's
done.
an awfully hard angle in that river.
I like
don't
that
even-
one. I like
yeah,
that one. I think that looks a lot better to me.
Fine, I'll throw this into both the private and the public one so people can
Yes.
steal, because that's just, yeah. So that's what I normally don't jump into. And then from here you can then do other things. I don't know, rotate, apply. I don't know. There's somewhere in here where you can then get other details. F5. See if that works. Will it? Yeah, now we've got a new one altogether. I'm sure there's somewhere where you can like change the parameters. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a while since I've used it. But that's what I use, and then yeah. Oh, that's a harbor. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I would. I mean, the city wall is a little bit regular. I would. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. See,
Yeah.
that's new city, color export as generate. Oh, here you go. That's the generation. So we can then see, right, random. It's not capital. Though we need to have it.
Forge Key. I want to go to Forge Key. May we go there, please?
Yeah.
What?
The name of the city is Forge Key. I want to-
Ah, thank you.
Kabuki Kid suggesting hex roll. Shall we have a look at hex roll?
Sure. I'll quickly stop
I've
mine.
never seen Hexroll before, but
Star cities are in your eyes, Omanel. In your eyes.
Hexroll is now.
Oh, this one.
It's yeah. Have you got it loaded? Have you? Or...
I've got the web page loaded. I'm just quickly seeing what I can.
Oh, it
There
all
you
looks
go.
a bit.
It's basically a hex map that you'll be generating.
Right.
Just
Does it create city maps though? I mean, it looks like it does create world maps.
Well, again, for the world maps, yeah, that's not bad. But from what I'm gathering of a hex,
I mean, it's in the name, isn't it? Hexroll.
yeah. Just waiting for
think?
it to.
Looks quite
There you
pretty.
go. Yeah, quickly sharing. That is what I've just quickly gotten from Hexroll, at least from there. So I have not put, I've not put in anything. This is just where it's spat out. Regions, that information, encounters. I mean, there are a number of these things that I suppose you could. Oh, that's actually a lot of information. My goodness. Would you look at this? I'm still scrolling.
Which one's this?
It's Hexroll.
Yeah, Hexroll. It's still going.
Wow.
This is not what we thought it was. This is so much more. Crypt of the Dark Blades.
It looks pretty awesome. You don't need to create
that is
maps anymore.
That's a huge map. Oh, good grief! I just opened that up. That's a big map. It goes all the way through. Oh, what's this? Armor class movements. Oh, jeez. This is just going.
It creates your whole adventures.
It creates everything for you. Inns, factions.
Wow.
Crypts. All right, I underestimated.
Kabuki Kid is basically retired from creating her own adventures and just uses Hexroll now, by the looks of things.
Oh yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was.
That's
was a lot.
insane. That is insane.
I found something similar where it gives you like a world map, and then there are dots that you can click on, and then use.
Yeah. I've seen that.
Yeah. That was too much even for me. I was just like, I can't. This is too much.
But you can use it as a starting point, can't you? Those sort of things, and take it as a framework and do your own thing with it.
I mean, I'll be honest. Yes, it's a good one. I mean, Hexroll. My God, here's a region, and here is years worth of stuff. I've defaulted over to like Dungeon if I need just like a map, and I'll be like, I need a small compact one. Here it is. Done, and then I can fill out the rest as a baseline.
Cool. So
where do we take it from here?
Where do we go from here?
Where do we take it from here? Right. You have talked about balance of getting the balance right in terms of trades and NPCs in cities. How in depth do you go when preparing NPCs, or is it most of what you do improvised when you're running a city? Because the players can go to pretty much anywhere in the city, can't they? And do you have like lists of names, tables, that sort of thing prepared in advance, or is it just spur of the moment?
So, DK, are you cleaning something?
Yeah.
A gun? Are you cleaning a gun?
No.
All right. So, what kind of preparation are we doing? Well, this is where it becomes heavily dependent, because when we have, let's just say, a smaller city, there's already going to be a lot going on in there. There's going to be a lot of movers, there's going to be shakers, there's going to be faction guilds, and everything else in between. So the question that I often ask myself is, what are the players currently involved in, and who are they going to be engaging with? And this is where I try to then sort of start communication of like, what are their plans, where are they going? Because if I have to make things up on the spot, then okay, I'll make things up on the spot, but then I'll try and like play catch up later to do it. I try to be prepared of the major characters that the players will engage with. The high people, nobility, the players are unlikely to get into the same house as them or the same area as them, because unless they've done something significant, I don't see why they should be standing before the archbishop of something or in front of anyone that would be a bishop or most nobility, unless it's medium to lesser nobility. So I try to be prepared for what I can make.
Nice to see you, Janet. I'm on the streams. I believe you're going to be on the stream on Friday, getting drunk with several of us reprobates. Looking forward to it. Yes. What I mean, you've obviously got to try and drop a few seeds to guide the players into the bits that you prepared, haven't you? Because obviously players can go. I ran my favorite Call of Cthulhu adventure, Forget Me Not. Takes place in a little town of Clio. I'll make sure I pronounce that correctly. I called it Clio in my review because we have the Renault Clio car over here and it's spelled the same, but apparently in America it's known as Clio. I still don't know how to say, is it Saginaw? Saginaw? I haven't got how you pronounce that one.
Saginaw.
But Saginaw, right, okay. One of the times I ran it, my players spent more time in Saginaw than in Clio. And there's absolutely nothing in that adventure about Saginaw whatsoever. Yet they were determined to go shopping in there, go to the hospital there, all that sort of stuff. I had nothing whatsoever. We have a Daniel. How you doing?
Let me get a screenshot of that in case I get mice back in my apartment. I'll put it up on the wall. Tear them all out. Saginaw, not Saginaw. Saginaw.
Saginaw.
No. Saginaw. Cut it off short.
Saginaw.
There you go.
Saginaw.
Okay.
But yeah, and there's at least one session. I think the module's like 3 sessions typically, and there was at least one. I think it was one whole session there in Saginaw, and I knew nothing about the place, nothing whatsoever. Despite everything in the adventure steering them towards Clio, no, they were determined they were going to spend time in Saginaw. So it was all bullshit for me.
Yeah, all that's bullshit. If you can bullshit it, right?
Yeah. So, Saxis, how do you try and steer your players towards what you've produced, or do you just let them go, let them run free?
Well, if I've planned something, let's say that they're coming to a city for a purpose, then I try and steer them that way. There are moments where things can sort of go like, okay, well, we've got a little bit of downtime. Let's go around here. Let's go over there. And let's do a little bit of something. But if they start getting offbeat, well, tick-tock. They miss a deadline of meeting with someone. Well, that person's going to feel like, well, I've just been stood up by a bunch of nobodies. How dare they? So the next time they come knocking and go like, oh, yeah, by the way, we need to catch up with you. It's just like, no, you don't. You couldn't even show up for the meeting the first time. But yeah, like my expectations and a little bit of my experience is, the experience in a city is going to be different than the experience when you live in a hamlet in the countryside. People, at least in my experience with the city, is much more like things got to go, things got to move, got to move. Whereas in Hamlet, it's going to be a lot more like, well, we know everybody, so Bob couldn't make it because I know he's got issues with the cow, so things just make sense. You're a lot more in the loop for what's happening with your neighbors, and like I push them to be oriented, because the moment they start going scatterbrained, well, that's when they chew off more than they can bite. And I think the players have to approach cities differently as well, because there's going to be more eyes on them potentially in a city. Yes, because gossip. and city
Gossip.
guards, and then you're going to have thieves guild, you're going to have smugglers guild. Like how
Yeah.
they're going to have a lot of sway, like smugglers. That's yeah. There are other people doing things there, and they don't like it when outsider comes and starts pushing things around.
Mhm.
So it's never a popular thing to come in and just go, well, we need to do this, and we're gonna get this done, and you get a fireball, and you get a lightning bolt. That's gonna go down like a little balloon. As a matter of fact, I actually what I've done in one of my campaigns is that the players have been taxed when they wanted to go from one section of the city to the other to prevent movement of people. So if they want to go into the merchant city, they had to pay 7 gold and 5 silver pieces every time they had to go in, because they didn't want riffraff just entering. If you were going into the merchant city, you needed to have some money. If you were going into the docks, well, it's going to again cost you a thing. Again, controlling the movement of people. But that's because the specific city that they were in had internal walls of segregating the different classes and the different social classes and skills, so that they could control where was goods made, where were products being stored, and where were the workers and where were the artisans.
And we did touch on very briefly the idea of law in the city as well.
Yep.
Cities tend to be places where there has to be, for the city to exist, laws, structure, somebody in charge, somebody who you have to answer to.
Yep.
And I think that opens up opportunities, very much so. And from what I've seen, quite often players expect to get away with a lot more than they really should. The emphasis is on the DM to use city guards like a bit of a fist to say, "Oi, no, word gets around."
Okay, have you read some of the punishments that was dealt in the medieval times?
Oh yeah.
So there's a German executioner whose not memoirs, but his diary was published and translated. He wrote like some of the days. He just wrote, "I hung a thief today. He was caught stealing things. He was hung." Like, theft, right there. That's death. To make an example out of someone, someone being put in the gallows. That was public humiliation as well as an example for the rest of the people.
You mean the pillars?
That's the pillows, yeah, not gallows. Sorry,
The stocks, yeah, pillory.
Yeah.
There's a difference between stocks and pillory, isn't there? Don't your feet go in the stocks and your hands go in a pillory?
I was on the wrong side of the law.
It's the same. It's the same sort of message you're meant to be putting out there, and you're put out there as an example. So it's a lot harsher. But again, you've got so many people under the same rule, and you're often looking at whoever is going to be the law enforcers. They are going to be the one that is going to have to deal with that. And again, depending on how historically accurate you want to be with things, a city guard, as we might imagine it in a medieval time, would be in a fantasy world, would be more akin to a militia under the control of a bailiff, and the bailiff would then be the one who is overseeing the day-to-day law adjudication of that city. So he would be doing the nobleman's daily job to make sure things just run smoothly and consistently. And that was a position that was, well, there would be the equivalent of like the sheriff or thereabouts, because he was given a lot of power, but there was a lot of responsibility riding on his neck as well. And
then they've got there's gibbeting as well.
What's that?
You know what gibbeting is?
No, my English is not that good, so explain it for me.
Placing the executed criminal's body in a cage and dangling it outside the city.
Yeah. Public displays of all that. I mean, they did that to William Wallace. Not necessarily, but like they cut him up and sent him out to the different regions.
Sent bits of his bodies out. Yeah, bits of his body out.
But that was an example. That's also why you've got, why. I mean, there was a it's a fantasy book I've read where a company of mercenaries were hired and to fight orcs. And what they effectively did was that they kept, like, every time they fought orcs, they kept on piling up those heads on pikes and would just like line up like a long trail to the city that they were defending and going, you got to walk past every single orc we have killed. You got to see like what we have done to them because you will be next. And if that doesn't discourage you, bring it.
You know, I was saying about the lack of cities in D&D.
Go on.
I completely forgot. The Vault of the Drow. Has anyone in chat ever run the Vault of the Drow? I was looking forward to running it in a campaign. I'd started prepping it, and all the characters died before they got there, which was a shame. But that was a drow city. And it was very loosely laid out. And the idea was that it's on the DM to describe it. Gene, you've run Vault. How did it go? I'm interested to find out, because it looks like a real challenge. It describes various parts of the city, but it is very loosey-goosey about it. And a lot of it is dealt with by the form of random encounters, things you will see happening in the street, that sort of thing. The map itself is fairly vague. And I mean, Jeb, that was my worry. That was my worry when I was preparing for running it, describing it, because a drow city would be very alien.
It would be so different.
It would be, yeah.
But
yeah.
It's my Okay, so if we take something like, if we're going to go into like the cities of monsters, we've also got to address the very different mindsets. So with Drow, you've got a very clear separation of the Drow houses, and each Drow is going to have their own spire. The road between those spires is then where you're going to be having a lot of the slums, and that's where a lot of the dirty work is going to be done between houses. And then there's going to be a lot of, again, it is such an alien concept because you are now walking into, again, Drows, that you're literally walking into a spider web where there's going to be knife, cloak and dagger all the time, from the lowest levels of the servants all the way up to the highest echelons of the priesthood of what's it called, the Dark Queen Loth. That's where you're gonna have situations like that, or you can have like beneath Waterdeep, you've got Skullport, which is the hub of like evil, where the slavers of the Kuo-Toa meets with the merchantmen of the Drow, where the Illithids come and procure items. Go on.
That is the city map you get for Vault of the Drow. It's just really areas.
Yeah, it's neighborhoods. Like
it's neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It's light on details.
But I would also imagine, like, again, as DK is saying, it is so much about the neighborhoods, which is going to be your Drow houses, the family houses. The
guess that's yes.
Well, what everybody forgets in their Drow cities is the most important thing, which is ample drider parking. And no one takes that into consideration. Where are the driders?
You can see from this map, there's plenty of room for driders.
All right, fine. Ruin my joke. I hate you too.
But no, you'll find all sorts in there. Were driders created for this adventure?
I don't know. I know driders, generally speaking, are shunned from the Drow society because they failed. So
I believe they were originated for this adventure. Yes.
I know they weren't in the cities; they were out in the caves patrolling because they had suffered the disgrace of Loth and all that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I got to bounce. I got to get some stuff done before I start my show there at 8 p.m. So it's been fun.
No,
Yeah,
no
it
problem.
has.
It has. Yes, yes.
Been fun.
Cheers, Bear, and I
Thank you.
see you Saturday.
I will
See you
see you
Saturday.
Saturday, sir. I'm looking forward to killing your character. I mean, the adventure we're going to go on. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I like your style.
My character probably killed himself the way he's been playing.
Well, the way he's been going,
acting.
someone in the group's going to kill him, but that's beside the point. Okay, bye now.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Yeah, if you want to check out Bear's Society of Role-Playing Gamers, we'll be streaming a live game on Saturday. Starts at 7 p.m. my time, so you have to adjust according to that. Our clocks haven't shifted yet. Yours have for all you American types and Canadian types. And yeah, you'll see me playing and Iman playing, and there's Cody and Max and Malachi, and I always forget one person. Hunger! I couldn't forget Hunger. So that's our group of 6. Bear's running it, and it's been a lot of fun so far. Palladium Fantasy, and it's set in Bear's own game world, which is very much like feudal medieval Europe. And we haven't been to a city yet. So we'll have to find out what Bear cities are like. What did they eat? They ate slaves and mushrooms generally, I think.
Pretty much,
Drow?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the drow.
It's
It's the drow. It's the drow.
Yeah. Lots of drugs and booze and humanoid meat and
Stuff I used to do on Saturday nights.
Daniel, behave yourself. Got a cough. Right. So next thing about cities. Anybody in chat got any questions about cities? The city's the bit within the dark hexes. You've got to make it up yourself. Yeah. Pretty much. That'll be area 8, 9. That area. There's lots of mushroom forests and things like that there. And the bit at the northeast, I believe, is the various royal houses and their locations. So yeah, that is the Drow Vault. It's a massive place. One hex in there is 240 yards. It's very, very specific. So 4 hexes to a mile gives you an idea of the size of the place. Huge.
I never ran it, but
No, the Drow didn't have sewers, Straw Piglet. No.
Nobody has sewers in John's world.
No.
But my main DM, he ran it, and he did a really good job with it. Well, I was telling you the other night, John, about that, how we did like the rooftop shapes and all that other stuff.
Well, yeah, that's. I know one time I improvised a town. We had a rooftop chase. I didn't initially imagine this particular town as being quite tight and congested, but why not? Because the party wanted to do a rooftop chase, so we had one.
Yeah.
So you can make it up. The room is there for the improvisation and the adjusting on the fly, if you are comfortable with the nuts and bolts of the place you've created.
Well, it was fun, like, because one person had a thief acrobat,
And that's a chance for that character to shine.
and I had a swashbuckler that had 2 whips. So him and I were running across the rooftops doing all that swashbuckling crap, slinging whips and everything. If I believe correctly, the magic user tried using a fly spell and got dispelled magic on, ended up dying. Crashed and burned.
Here we go. Here's the sort of question I like. I'm going to throw this one out to you, Pear. I draw my inspiration from modules, and I have run the Goodman Games version of the Lost City, which fleshes out the city at the bottom of the pyramid, and it's quite interesting. Also, Dwellers of the Forbidden City gives you a really good idea about a forgotten lost city as well. The way it's filled with lots of ruins that you can flesh out yourself, but there are certain factions dotted around in their own little pockets of the city.
Mm-hmm.
But how are you pair with lost cities, forgotten cities?
So if it's a lost city, the question is, has someone else moved in, and have they occupied it? Well, in which case, it's been repurposed, and you'll find that they will have redone the structuring. There might be the same foundations, but it's been redone. Having a different setup for what's it called, for them to be able to basically make it their own home. But if it's a case of like it's been lost and unoccupied, well, wilderness is probably taking it over, and you've now got a bunch of dangerous areas you've got to go into because
It'll be occupied by something, because that's where the adventure will be.
Yeah, but the wood would have been rotted away. The stones are no longer really safe for you to traverse anymore. If we're looking at something that's been left alone for, let's say, like a few hundred years, I mean, think of some of the cities from like 1500 that's just been left there. I mean, some of the stones are still there, but it's not safe. It's not going to be that safe for you to go up and down those staircases anymore if it's not been maintained.
It'll be overgrown as well.
It will be overgrown and
very overgrown.
Yeah. So that's going to be it. And if we're looking at something like a forgotten place, let's take something like a dwarven hall. Moria is a great example.
Yep.
Well, now you're suddenly looking at things like, well, things could have come from above or below, and now it's a hotbed for something else. And who knows that the dwarven city of an old, or the forgotten city of the dwarves might suddenly become a dark and sinister place of an aboleth that's decided to go in, and it's found a way to use its slaves to tunnel in and flood the place. And now that's a very scary place, because you've got to move through dark waters where the light that you are bringing with you is might not exactly allow you to see the bottom of what's down there. And those with the aquaphobia, it's going to be crapping themselves.
Absolutely. And yeah, and of course you can put things under the city, not sewers, but crypts and other modules, which is what I've done.
What about the tunnels of were people? I mean, taking inspiration from like the Skaven. The rat people could do that, or you could have other creatures coming in and about. What about, oh god, what are they called? Sorox, the earth elemental that loves to eat what's it called, gold and gems? I believe it's gems.
Don't know those.
Don't
know those.
It's an earth elemental that likes to hop into the material plane because they like gems. So
what are they from? I'm not familiar with them.
I'll see if I can find them in the. I know them in second edition, but it's not a monster from the material world. It's from the earth plane, the plane of earth, or plane of stone. So.
Janet's asking if we can wear a diaper. Is that talking about Friday night by any chance?
That's
Don't know. You better ask Daniel.
Manual.
Would you be wearing a diaper on Friday night?
Zorn. Daniel? It's a Zorn, not a Sorox. Zorn.
Zorn. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Zorns. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Zorn. Yeah. There you go. I'm mispronouncing it.
Zorn.
Yes. Those ones, because they can be other things that can suddenly be showing up, and then the city might suddenly might become more of an obstacle. It depends. I handle it the way I want my players to go through things, which is usually pain.
While you've been chatting away there, I have found the PDF of a famous forgotten city you recognize this map?
Mithrador? No. The Forbidden City is Forbidden City of what?
This is Dwellers of the Forbidden City, and in
Okay.
this you have Yonti, you have Zorn. There is an Aboleth. There are Tazloi, there are Mongol men, there are bugbears, there are bullywugs. There's some of it's been this bit over. I don't know if you can see my mouse pointer on there or not. You can. You should be able to now. There. Can you see my mouse pointer? No, you can do. There we go. That's a lake which has formed marshy areas, and some of it is sort of submerged and crumbled into the marsh. There's all sort of great big trees that have erupted through the buildings in places, but it is a sandbox as well. It's there for the DM to further develop. Numerous routes in and out, some through tunnels, some climbing down rocks and trees. You can use a great tree to get in. I think the map's good, Gene. I think the map is good. I think it's one.
Yeah, but you might need it in a better size than what you got back then.
Yeah. I mean, this is the other side of the map, and I placed. See the bottom left of the main city, just that little spur goes into the city, and just above it is what looks like a ruined ziggurat. Just there,
right?
That's precisely where I placed C1, Hidden Shrine of Temurchan. When my party were attracted by that ruined, what looks like a small ruined ziggurat. They had a poke around there and they fell into C1, literally. So, but no, I like it. But yeah, they could have put houses in and what have you, but it's all meant to be just ruins. It just describes it as all just ruins. So you can make of it what you want. They could have put a bit more description in there for a DM to work with, but it is just meant to be crumbled walls. You're meant to sort of guess at the original purpose for a lot of them. And if it had been a multicolor map, yeah, but it was 1981, I believe, this adventure, before they were even thinking about those the posher maps. But I think it's detailed enough. It is detailed enough, and there's plenty to work with for the DM. I mean, you just zoom in and look at some of them. You can see where if you can see my pointer, just directly 11 o'clock from the F, that's where my pointer is. That's not labeled. That's not described by the text in the adventure. But there's what appears to be a ruined manor there. I get, having visited Pompeii, I get Pompeii vibes from this, from the way it is all laid out, and all the crumbling and the crumbling buildings and what's left of the streets. It is a little bit too crisscrossy, but I guess that may have been. I can explain that away due to the constraints of it being built in a dormant volcano, limitations of space, all that sort of thing. But yeah, samples of ruined houses with an encounter. Yeah, yeah. But there are enough encounter areas to keep it interesting. But you're right, they could have put a little bit more, but there's a lot in the adventure already. There's a lot to get you started anyway. But yeah, it has a Pompeii feel to me. And if you ever get a chance to visit Pompeii, it's wonderful. If you do go to Italy and decide to go to Pompeii, spend a day at Pompeii, and then go and visit Herculaneum. Don't do it the other way around. Pompeii is huge. It's quite weathered. The condition it's in, it's quite crumbly in places, but it's massive, and you get a real sense of scale from it. But if you then go to Herculaneum, where they haven't excavated nearly as much, but they've done most of it a lot more recently, everything is so much better preserved. So for me, Herculaneum was the real wow factor in terms of the quality of what you see, but the sheer scale, Pompeii was Pompeii was immense.
Yep.
Well worth seeing. Well worth seeing. And it'll give you ideas for D&D games. It's a long way to go for most of you to go from America to Italy, but if you ever find yourself in Italy, do it. And climb Vesuvius as well. Look down and have a good sniff, because that's permanently bubbling. That place is permanently bubbling. To give you an idea of what was actually in it, nice bit of Errol Otis artwork there. Oh, Yonti, look at that. How many Yonti do you spot in that image, Saxius?
Now let me make this a little bit bigger. Right. 1, 2, 3.
I think there's 5 or 6.
I'm getting up to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there's going to be probably 7 from the mass of the way that they've contorted themselves together. I think there's 7.
Straw Piglet has the right idea, though. Too many.
No, they've only got 17 to 18 intelligence. They're only all geniuses. They only work in Machiavellian ways, and they make me look like an amateur.
And they're all about 7 or 8 hit dice, and the character levels in the adventure are going to be levels 4 to 7. So
And
yeah,
if
it's going to be brutal.
All right, question for you, John. Do you then make them psionic as well?
No, I didn't use psionics in that campaign. I
So
would
you
have
just
done
make-
I would have done if they'd got to the level where they were reaching mind flayers down in the drow modules. That's when I'd have introduced psionics. But
Do you just
no, I
make them magically innate?
Yeah.
Same. That's what I've done. I don't like the psionic system, but that's a topic for different periods. But that's I just make them really good at magic, just like scarily good at magic.
one of the first things they did is they polymorphed the party's fighter into a rat.
If you but if you have that spell in your repertoire, why are you not throwing that at the players? Why are you not casting dominate person? Why are you not creating illusions to make it look like one of them is now being turned?
Yeah.
You know, these are things that the players are doing it. The Yonti are chaotic evil with 17 to 18 intelligence. They're going to go straight for it. Find the fight. Yeah, there you go.
Well, it's like it came up like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes ago. The one adventure had an aboleth in it.
Yeah, this one
Those are nasty beasts. I mean,
yeah,
that's a TPK. If you play them right, that's a TPK.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I've run an aboleth against my group, and the group stayed as far away from the water as they could. But the aboleth just went like, "Well, you're not going to come in here, but I'm not going to let you see me." So it used illusions to just make it look like there's a lot of dirt and dust in the water, so they couldn't see it. Because why would they disbelieve that an aboleth would thrash around to create a what's called a hiding for itself? So they couldn't shoot it. But the aboleth kept on going like, dominate person, you go and kill that person, dominate person, you start casting spell on that other one, because they can do that. And then the moment anyone gets closer, get out a tentacle, drag them into the water, and voila, would you look at that? You've now got a servant. Send them back out. Doesn't matter that they're in pain and that they're dying from not being in water.
Yep.
This was the adventure that first gave us the aboleth. It was created for this adventure.
Weren't aboleths in the Monsters Manual before then?
No, they were in Monster Manual 2.
Oh, lovely. I'll have to get a copy of that.
This adventure predated Monster Manual 2.
But that's one of the things. It's also why I like the Gorel. That's another monster that I quite like, because that is a hive mind creature that just sort of, it's an aberration. It looks like a giant brain with a what's called parrot beak.
Correct. Yeah.
Basically, or an octopus with a beak more pronounced, and they are scary. They will get 6 to 8 attacks against you, and they will paralyze you, and then they'll just float away and start num 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 num.
See, I know how much you like the Yonti. The Yonti were created for this adventure. This was the first adventure ever to use them.
Yonti are awesome. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Again,
hello, dungeon crawling hobo. Greetings. So yeah.
What's that? Percentage for spell immunity? Oh, what a shame.
Yeah. Actually, they have got psionic ability. I just ignored that. I ignored that.
Well,
I
yes.
used all their spells and stuff.
So, funnily enough, I was listening to an interview with Tim Kask, and he was asked about psionics. Reason for why psionics was brought in was because when things like mind flayers, aboleths, and the likes were introduced, psionics were the thing that made the aberrations scary and was meant to be very difficult to defeat. So, in order to justify why the world hasn't been taken over by these creatures, there would be psionic humanoids. So that's why it was introduced in, so that they had a fighting chance. Yeah.
I mean, I think the reason why the world hasn't been taken over by things like the aboleths is they are so rare, and they will take each other out.
I mean, that's the same with like the mind flayers. Like each of the elder brains, they don't like each other, so that each conclave are going to be against each other. The Yonti are not going to take over the world either, because if you go through their entry, they are Machiavellian, but they are very divided. Like even in a unified group, there will be subsects that will fight each other for power. So they are chaotic evil. They all want the same goal, but they very much disagree about how to go about it. They all think they are the smartest snake to do it, which makes
Dan House and the Fate. One other thing about this adventure, if you look here on the, at some point I'm going to do a video on pre-generated characters in adventures. Look, we have a bard, Olaf Peacock, a human bard.
Okay.
And this proves that bards do not require the usual dual classing rules. Because look, this bard is a 6th level fighter and only a 5th level thief and a 1st level bard. There we go. There we go.
I have absolutely disregarded first edition's idea of how to make a bard. I find it ludicrous and pointless.
No, I don't. I quite liked it. Quite liked it.
All right.
Actually, I'm going to go off track for 10 seconds.
Go.
That's right.
Years ago, John, you did a video, and it was the characters from Vault of the one of them on either Slavers or the Vault of the Drow. And you explained their names and what they were. And
yeah. I mean, that is. I'm planning that for a video in the near future to go through.
But it was
the G1.
It was their names, and they were all slang names.
Yes.
I thought that was cool. I've been trying to find it to rewatch it, but
I didn't go into any real detail. I need to look them all up properly to get the proper descriptions of how the names were derived. It'll take a little bit of effort. Unfortunately, with my shift in work patterns recently, I've just got to adjust.
No, I thought it was really cool because you explained how they were all like thieves' camp names.
There's things like that. Yeah.
Anyhow,
yeah. That is a plan for a future video. That is a plan. Hello, Iman. You're still northern and you still love your whippets and Squirrel Hermit, you are right. 1E bards are great indeed. So, anything more to talk about cities?
Well,
just thinking. I haven't got my map of the Lost City from B4 on this computer, unfortunately. I drew out my own version of it, and if anything, it was a little disappointing. The version they used in the Goodman, the city at the bottom of the Lost City, really didn't feel big enough, and Goodman Games stuck to the original, so theirs didn't really feel big enough. It wasn't really much of a city. It had a verisimilitude issue for me, but it was still a good place to adventure. Still a good place, and it worked. It worked for the purpose of the adventure. An issue that Duralumin has is over density of encounters. How much we treat like dungeon exploration, and how much do we hand wave? I mean, Maynard Duralumin he's playing in my MERP game, and so far they haven't been in a city. They've been in towns, and he knows from playing that I do hand wave quite a lot of what's happening in the streets. I try and focus on the interesting events more as much as possible, and they can just generally go from one location to another unless there's something preventing them from moving around where they're going to have to be careful. But I tend to, because going back to Elfbait's earlier comment, not over focusing on the details, but just getting the general feel as much as possible. I haven't got City State of Invincible Overlord, so I can't really talk about it. You're welcome to join the stream, Gene, and have a go and tell us all about it. Up to you. I mean, have either of you guys got the experience of City State of the Invincible Overlord?
Right.
No.
Do we put Demi? Not very many. I mean, certainly in the MERP game, there might be elven and dwarven traders traveling to and from the cities, but they're not going to be common. They're not going to be living there. Metraith, the town they're in at the moment, does have a small hobbit population, because hobbits did live in the mid Third Age. Hobbits did live alongside humans in a lot of places. And no, there were no dwarf sewer contractors. No, Piglet, no. Saxius is like that, but
well, you're going to be torturing me with your goblin campaign. I'm now going to be torturing you with sewers. But does it have a sewer, John? Tell me about its sewers. What kind of infrastructure does it have?
See, I have something I believe that you don't here in StreamYard, and that's the mute button. Anyway,
so going to the question of demi-humans. Well, if we're looking at a high fantasy one, and if it is a busy, bustling place, then I would be putting in demi-humans as well. That will be, ambassadors and traders from the elven principalities. You're going to be having, the dwarven city-states are going to be showing up with their merchants and so on. In my current campaign, the big thing that is showing up in the bigger city, there's only one big city in my Saturday group, and that city has a lower, you can be on the lowest point as a serf in the human society, but there's a group below you in the city, and that is the mongrel folk that is allowed to live there because they do all the dirty work of the cleanups. But they've got the agreement of, you do this during the nights, we don't see you, and you're allowed to live here. So there is this sort of ecological agreement of another group of beings that are allowed to be there, but they're not given the same form of the rights. Again, I'm not saying these people are good, as in the people who run the cities, but they're basically running it in that way. Similarly to the Goblin campaign that John got to play in, why the goblins in that campaign was treated as second-class citizens. They were given the worst jobs possible. Treated
any job's good job.
Yeah, I know. And they were treated
Goblins
inhumanely.
work.
Exactly,
Goblins
and
work.
and you get to live in the barn.
Yes, if you got a job.
Anyway, so that's like I do allow it, but like there's a reason behind it. I wouldn't say if there was like a mercantile city at the heart of a human kingdom, I wouldn't start having a lot of demi-humans there unless I can justify it for one reason or another. But then again, a lot of the campaigns that I run, a city will only have influence so far out beyond its borders, and then it just becomes wilderness that technically belongs to a kingdom, but it's not controlled, it's not maintained, it's not taxed. So that's why there's a lot of monsters between towns.
It's one of the issues I have with sort of the high fantasy melting pot that is 5e and Forgotten Realms, is that I don't generally perceive races mixing in a very cosmopolitan way in big cities. I don't see them all as getting on.
I am not saying that they are. I'm saying that it's a necessity for them. The elven principalities would be there to sell things. They would stay because they have to. They have to resupply and get out of there. The people who would be staying there from the elven principalities would be the nobilities, the diplomats, or any higher echelons that would not be staying in the slummier areas, or even they would only be staying there because it was a contractual or a political reason for why they would be there. It's no different than why you might have French nobility in the court of England, because those Frenchmen were sent because they had a social mission from the King of France to help.
When their mission is up, they will return.
Exactly. And that is how I treat it. It's the same reason why, again, you would have French merchants arriving in, the ports of England. You would have Danish merchants arriving in the city of London. That's
Danish merchants tended to arrive on long, thin boats and had big axes generally, and they didn't pay for what they took.
Well, you had a terrible taxation system. You just couldn't. You didn't understand how it worked. We were there to educate you. It just took you 300 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is, like, I understand why people might think, it's a large cosmetology thing. However, let's look at the flip side of it. Why not? Why not just allow it? Why not have a place where you could say, well, the elves have decided that they actually quite like this. They've made their area. They've now made it, with large gardens that overgrow, and it makes it into their little sort of area. It now becomes very high valued amongst the other nobility who wants to move in there. Why? There's no reason why a dungeon master should not be able to sit down and go, well, there's a reason why we would have so many different cultures there. Look at our modern cities, the bigger cities. Look at how we've got Little Italy, Chinatown. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Chinatown. You have got districts where cultures were brought in, and they carved out a little piece for themselves there. Historically speaking, it has happened and it has worked, and it is still happening today. So why wouldn't it?
That is true.
Why wouldn't it? So that's just a counter argument. Now, I've got my style for what I would like to do, but there's.
I think it's. I mean, I prefer to perceive fantasy races as having much more difference between each other than various human ethnicities.
Yes, but there are certain things. Okay, let's take a step back. There are certain things we just can't comprehend. We're all humans here. Imagine that you are in your 20s, but you've seen 200 years pass by. And in those 200 years, you've seen the equivalent of ants develop a city, expand out, go to war several times over. And this has all been just as you grew up from a child to a young adult, and they are still going at it. That would be mind-boggling to observe as an elf.
And that's why the elves are in the forest. They want nothing to do with it.
Well, that's why the isolationism is the easiest answer. But then you've got the elves who go, I want to go out and experience it. And those elves then have to find themselves like, I have to adapt really, really, really quickly because the world is moving quicker than I can keep up with, like mentally. So they have to adjust to that. it's one of the
And
reasons.
that's
for
how
why-
half elves happen.
It is one of the reasons why half elves catch up quicker. But it's
That's why half elves happen. It's why they exist.
um, you using my Saturday group. It's a question that's actually been thrown at the full elf several times over, and he has actually turned around and said that he feels like an outsider to his own people because he has adjusted to the pattern of the world beyond, and he feels that time slows down too much when he goes home. So he wants to now live in a higher paced environment, but he is the freak amongst his own people because he likes the quicker paced change of the world.
I mean, I'm playing a non-human character in our Monday night game, and I made a point of trying to get into his differences, his racial differences. It's a
Mhm.
Greek mythology themed game.
Yeah, the
And
Satyr.
Satyr.
Go on.
We'll argue about the pronunciation.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm playing a satyr, and he hates it in the cities.
Mhm.
He absolutely hates it because he's a woodland creature. He tries to avoid going into the cities. He drags his heels, but when he's in there, he tends to find the pubs and drink a lot and sleeps in the stables because the smell of the stables is more his thing. And he's argued with humans about the idea of why do they have marriage? Aren't unions just for breeding purposes? Why don't you just party and dance and sing and drink and make music? And it's that sort of thing. So I try to make him different.
Yeah.
I tried to make
Well,
it.
we've all got to find our ways for like what makes the characters different and what makes them contribute to the games. Well, but again, like there are going to be limitations. Again, elves having the
Yeah.
longevity of it, dwarves having again just again getting into the mindset of you were offended once, you are now condemning someone's entire lineage because their great grandfather said a bad word to you and you are holding their son's son responsible for it, and that son's son has to now apologize to you because you were alive when their great grandfather did that thing. That is a mentality that's very hard to get around. And
Yes.
Maybe that's
but
why I
as you
play Angus so well.
Almost just like that's a mentality of where for you again, like dwarves would be what like an adult around their 60s, 80s, give or take. Like by the point a human has gone through their entire life, a dwarf has just about matured, and they'll go like, "I like you." It's like I'm dying. It's like it was a good run. I'll look after your kids. But that's like it's a whole different culture you're now having to look at and deal with. But it's a lot to get into, but that's also why I just enjoy taking another group like the gnomes, high functioning workaholics that just go hyper focused into something that they want
Yeah.
at that period, and that I just relate to that. I'm just not as short as them.
I mean, I know I mentioned it rather too much for your liking, Saxius, but it's one of the reasons why I like the Shadow of the Demon Lords game. Is I feel we made goblins into something different, something
Yes.
that was clearly not human.
They weren't. No. And you played very well into it. You kept you used the fact that you can't become ill. And you ran with that fantastically by taking on jobs that most people would look at and be like, oh, that is horrifyingly disgusting. You did it in a way that would make sense for a goblin of we're gonna be sitting in here or we're gonna lay in this filth and we are gonna think this is awesome and this is cool. Let me just restart my camera. And you did that, and you created a culture.
Yeah. Oh. Is he back?
Yeah, I'm here. It's just my camera decides not to work.
Right. But yeah, so we created a culture around that idea of a goblin's place in society was based on whether he'd got a job or not.
Yeah, how good
whether
the
he
job
brought-
was. It was
Whether he
all
brought food back to the barn. It didn't matter pretty much what the food was, because pretty much
Exactly.
everything is edible to a goblin.
exactly.
Well, yeah, and we lived in disgusting squalor.
Yeah. And if you licked something, that was your property, and then that was how the entire thing was made up. Again, this was something that would be considered so surreal to a human if you were told it doesn't matter what kind of job you have, you just have to have a job. You then have to contribute whatever food you earn into an apartment complex where you then share the entire apartment complex with as many people as we can cram in.
Yeah.
You've got no privacy. You have got no income, not you own nothing except for the things that you can hold on to with your two hands. That's it.
And everything that's potentially edible goes in that pot.
Exactly. Again, everything shared, but again, that is what we built on that, and that was different. But Shadow of the Demon Lord then also brings out a lot of other things, like you can play a clockwork or a golem, where you are someone who has woken up, you are 200 years old, realistically, but you went to sleep one day, woke up 200 years later, and bam, you're now in a different world. It is a terrifying concept of thinking that one day you wake up and everything that you remember is gone, and you're now alone in a whole different world. And that's what you've got to roleplay out as. Or orcs being people who were convicts who has then been cursed with dark magic, and you are now an orc, and your entire point in life is basically a penal worker and a penal soldier for an empire that doesn't care for you. That's dark. It's very dark.
And I think Elfbait says here, most of the demi-humans that live in human settlements are there for economic reasons, or they are odd ducks that want to live with the people. And I'm guessing those odd ducks are the ones that could potentially become adventurers.
Yeah. Most adventurers should be odd dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a good point here. The elves sent the barrels down the river. They didn't want to associate with the humans any more than necessary. Yeah.
I like that. That's a good point.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've done our bit. There you go, humans. There go the barrels.
Hmm.
Yeah. Humans. Yeah. Orcs settling down. Yeah. I say it's your world. It's your world. And if orcs can settle down in your world, yes. Yeah.
Well, orcs are lawful evil, aren't they? So they can
depends on which. It depends on which version of D&D you're playing.
All right. So aren't they lawful evil in AD&D?
AD&D, yeah. Yes,
Yeah. So they can enter into contracts. They can enter into allegiances. It doesn't have to be defined in the sense of like, we're just here to take over the world. It's like, no, it would be the equivalent of dealing with like Sparta or equally like militia or military-oriented, groups. You can still make still make deals. They can still be integrated. There's no reason why they shouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how you've got orcs defined in your game world. And if you lean into the lawful evil orc, they can be organized.
Yeah. I go down the route of pig people and Vikings, and then I have hobgoblins be Greek, Athenian / Spartan.
Military.
It's very military, organized, rank and file, and orcs would be the equivalent of shock troopers. Like they're there to rush in and do carnage. But that's how I end up doing it.
Where's Dark Knight of Hibernia? Because if he was here, I would say, and goblins are the Irish. But
Anyway.
but he's not. But I said it anyway.
Anyway, on that note, I am gonna have to leave. It's late my side, so time for me to get some shy.
Okay. Yeah. So cheers, Saxius. We have. Thanks for being with us for almost all the stream. So chat. What do you? I mean, we're into the last half hour of the stream. We've pretty much hammered out cities. You have me and Daniel here. And we're drinking, aren't we, this weekend, Daniel?
Yes,
First time. And Some of our fellow drinkers are here in chat. Squirrel Hermit, how you doing? Are you looking forward to Drinking Quest this week? We've had Janet with us earlier. Don't know if she's still with us now. Our other players are going to be Joker and Sean, Major's Musings. And I'm good. I'm glad to see your camera's holding up, Dan, because I mean we have got the worry of your connection with Roll20, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Like I said, I think that's computer error more than anything else.
Yeah, well, we shall see. We shall see how it goes. We shall see how it goes. But a bit of Drinking Quest. The rules of the game have been slightly adapted to allow 6 players. When Mage said to me there are 6 characters available in this one, I took it to mean there are 6. The game's been changed to allow for 6 players. What it actually meant was that this quest has 6 characters for 4 players. So we've ended up potentially with a couple too many players, but we're adapting the rules. We're adapting the rules. Don't matter. Should still be fun. Plenty of chance for us to consume. And we will be doing a super chat thing on there where a $5 super chat will force somebody to down whatever drink they've currently got, and a $10 super chat will force everybody who's playing to down their current drink.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could get messy. But it depends how people.
What time is it starting your time?
9 p.m. my time. And remember, our clocks. What time is it where you are now?
Oh God, that's going to be like 2 a.m. for me.
No, go backwards.
No, that's right. So 4. Oh, good. I'll sleep good that night.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll get it all up in time. Remember, our clocks have changed. So it's going to be starting 9 p.m. my time.
That's 4 o'clock for me.
Right.
So, yeah.
What time is it? Yeah. Because it's 11:40 here now. 11:38 here now. So work from that, squirrel. Work for that, squirrel, and you, Dan.
Well, has your clocks changed?
No, they don't change till the end of March.
Right. So you said 9. That'll be 5 for me then. Okay.
Because you're East Coast, aren't you? Because there's only 4 hours difference.
Right. Yeah. Now there is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's only 4 hours difference at the moment between Squirrel. So it's a 5 p.m. start your time this time. Because we've
that's good.
We haven't shifted.
I can hit the pub and get my warm up on before I come home and play.
I can't imagine going to the pub before playing Drinking Quest, but I'm not. I'm not a hardened boozer anymore. 5 or 6 pints, and that's enough for me now. And last time we played it, I had to down 5 cans in pretty short order, pretty much no time. So yeah, it's good fun. But yeah, Squirrel Hermit was just drinking whatever he could get hold of.
Yeah.
We were all on specific drinks. Squirrel was on nothing specific. He was just, I don't care. Get it down. And what was the finishing order last time? I think Mage won. I came second, and I can't remember how many XP Squirrel and Saxius got. I don't think it was very many, but it didn't matter. Because it was just the fun of the game. Just the fun of being silly. But we can't let Mage win this time. We can't.
Okay.
If it looks like he's pulling ahead, we need everyone chat. We've got to gang up on Sean. We've got to gang up on Mage's music.
How do you win?
You gain XP.
Okay.
By completing quests.
All right.
And he kept successfully completing quests, and we kept failing and drinking.
Mm-hmm.
He had 0 chugs that he had to do. I had 5. Saxius had 5, and Squirrel had 4. These were enforced chugs, which means downing the entirety of whatever drink you've got in front of you. And he had none. None.
Uh,
There's something wrong with that. So remember that, chat. Remember that. It will be simultaneously streamed on Mage's channel. And Squirrel, if you want to simultaneously stream it on yours, you're more than welcome. More than welcome. Put the simulcast out there and get people joining in. Yes, Mage won. He did indeed. It was fun. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we were all drinking extra on top. I mean, I had to down 5. We I know I had 6 or 7 empty cans in my bin the next day. And we were only playing for a couple of hours.
oh, I got this. This is not a problem.
Yeah, we know, Dan. We know you're gonna destroy us. You're gonna absolutely destroy us.
My stepson is about, he's 6'1", 6'2", probably 230 pounds, weightlifter, well, maybe 200, 210, big kid. Went to college, and he's a good kid. And the one night he came back home, and he thought he could outdrink me. That was pretty funny. The next day, he woke up. He goes, "Dude, I'm never going to go shot for shot against you again." So
see, I'm not one for shots. The last time I got about 5.5 years ago now, as in very drunk, and it was my boss. I'm 5'5" and a bit, and at the time I was going for a black belt at judo. I was about 160 pounds, very little excess fat at all. I was short and solid.
Yep.
My boss, about 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot, about 230, 240 pounds, big guy. And it was the time I'd met one of our suppliers, and he was known as Big Wall. Big Wall for his name is Wall was a shortening of his surname, but he was known as Big Wall for a reason. And his company is known as Fat Boys for a reason. And he's got to be 6 foot, 6'1". And if he was less than 400 pounds, I'd be surprised.
Wow.
Big unit. And we went to Wall's favorite pub, and we were drinking Wall's favorite ale, which isn't your 3.5%, 4% piss water. It was a proper English ale. And we went into rounds. So, and we started drinking about 6:30, and by 9 o'clock we'd completed 3 rounds each. So that was 9 beers each. And those two were just still going like that, and I was just my head down on the table. God. Oh God, they've had me, because they're just so much bigger than me. They just absorb it. But that's 8 or 9 beers in 2.5 hours, and it wasn't weak stuff. And these were English pints. These were not American pints. They were English
They're
pints.
16 ounces.
Yes.
They?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah. Oh, no. I was gone. But I'm only a little guy, so yeah.
I'm looking
But
forward.
Squirrel Hermit, you put a few away that last time we played it, and I fully expect Dan here to destroy us. The rest of us are just going to be gibbering messes, and Dan's just going to be
That's funny.
But it doesn't matter. It's all about fun. It's all about having a bit of fun.
Well,
all about having a laugh.
To it. Yeah.
It's all about chat pointing fingers at us stupid people and going, "Hey, look at those idiots." We can be here going, we'll be having a laugh. Thing is, Squirrel, I consider one of my nicknames at school, because I was so little, was Midget, and I'd be quite happy to be the world's tallest midget. I would be really happy to be the world's tallest midget, because I probably am at 5'5". But hey ho. All right. We are completely off topic. So if anybody in chat wants to, I'm gonna do that invite thing. If you're in chat and you fancy joining us for the last 15 minutes, then there's the link. And if I know your name, you're welcome to join in. Oh, is UK pint 20 ounces?
That's a big pint.
Yeah, I know our pints are big. We have 8 pints to a gallon, 4 quarts to a gallon. I know our gallons are bigger.
Yeah.
Our gallons are 4.5 liters. I think your gallons are about 3.5 liters.
I'd have to go look, but figure I'm trying to math here.
Let's see if I can get a picture of US pint versus US pint versus UK pint. Let's compare the size of the glasses.
A US pint is 16 to a gallon.
There we go. Oh, we've got a squirrel hermit. Hello, squirrel.
Hey, squirrel.
Hey, there's a sighting.
There we go. So UK gallon is 10 pounds, 160 ounces. US gallon, 128 ounces, 8 pounds. That's the difference.
Yep. Hence, your pints are bigger.
Yes. One of the best things about being British, more beer.
Fair enough.
You can't complain about that.
Nope. Will not argue.
You're looking all tidy there, Squirrel. You've gone in the opposite direction to me.
It's the spring cleaning, as I call it. Spring cleaning, right?
Yeah.
Every spring, it's gone. I keep it fairly closely shorn throughout the summer months, and then in the winter, I get the, you see the chops and the hair,
the sprout, yes, the fluff,
yes.
Just
something I've always done since shortly after high school. I don't know why. Hey, that's me.
What Straw Piglet says? Squirrels lose their hair in the spring.
Well, this one does by choice.
Yeah. What happens to piglets in the spring?
They get turned.
Lumen says better beer too. Yes, I would say yes. I know we get your bad American beer over here, and you probably have got some good craft beers and some good stronger lagers and stuff, but the American beer that comes over here.
Yeah, unless it's a micro brew kind of thing, what we call, a small brewery. It's just crank it out and appease the masses.
Yeah, we tend to get we get your Coors and your Budweiser and that sort of stuff.
Well, Coors Banquet is good.
I don't know it.
The Coors Light. I don't
Coors Light it's water.
Well, I mean, it's got alcohol in it. It just tastes like donkey piss.
Yeah. The original Coors is okay.
Yeah, the Coors Banquet. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, Coors Banquet. Now that's got some flavor. It's still the alcohol percentage. I don't know, 4% or something. It's nothing strong, but the taste, it's better than Coors Light.
Unfortunately, my favorite beer is Molson Triple X.
Molson, and Triple X isn't bad.
Yeah.
That's a Canadian.
Yep. It's kind of funny. I'm American, my two favorite beers are Canadian.
Hey, that's
And bear in mind here, but Duralumin is American, so there we go. And this is the view of an American. Traditional American beer is a disgrace. Traditional,
yeah.
in inverted commas.
No. Yeah, I mean,
That's why-
no. Who knows? 50,
That's
60,
why I
70 years
switched to,
ago, the traditional American beer could have tasted great and got watered down. Who knows? But yeah, I agree.
Well, no, what's like what Squirrel said. They mass produce it for millions of people. They just they're trying to sell as much as they can. They don't make a specialty beer. But
Yep.
like myself, IDPAs, I can't stand. That's why I went back to
Hello, Eagle Rider.
bourbon and whiskey. So,
Well, if you ever come to Britain, try some proper British ale.
I will.
I do like some Boddingtons. We have that in the States.
Boddington's used to be decent, but we're going back 20 or 30 years.
Okay.
It's a little. The Boddingtons I've had more recently is a little bit flavorless in comparison. It's easy to drink though. It slips down very easily. But I remember Boddingtons certainly around the time I went to university in the early 90s. Boddingtons was quite common around there, and it was quite palatable then. But it has changed. It has changed.
Now I'm going to say this because we're talking about booze and trying to get back onto the track of cities and urban campaigns. Have you seen or read Tolus?
No.
Oh my Lord! I think I have your address. If I do, you'll get a copy. You'll be amazed.
What is it?
It is a city book. You could use it with Greyhawk, Forgotten Realms, wherever, but it has a light little bit of its own setting attached, easily hand waved. I think it's one of the better, if not best, city books written to date, just because of the way it's the layout, the reference. As if any of you folks have traveled abroad and you have those travel brochures and you open it up and they have that little colored reference and see page this, go to here. This book is just like that, and it's like 500 friggin' pages.
Wow!
Bloody hell!
I'll have to look it up.
They did a Kickstarter for a 5e version, and there's a 3.5 rule set version. And I backed the Kickstarter for 5e version, and I'm not really, I don't like what the folks with those companies are doing, but I still got that one because it's that darn good. They didn't change much, anything. They added a little bit, but not much.
That's Tolus with a silent P, isn't it?
P-T-O-L-U-S. Tolus.
I saw you mention
Tolus is how it's Tolus is how it's pronounced according to what's written in the book, But yeah, I say Tolus. I'm telling you guys, get your hands on it. Wow, is it one of the best?
Well,
and any of us that's worth a grain of our salt, we can put it in 1E, BX, whatever.
I mean, speaking of 5e, I mean, Kickstarters and stuff, I have the Dark Tower has just shipped.
Nice.
I know people in America will be receiving their copies of it now. It's the Goodman Games one, their conversion of the Judges Guild Dark Tower.
Sweet.
I've had a message saying my copy is on the Atlantic at the moment.
Well, hopefully that ship doesn't sink.
Let's hope not. But I've got the 5e version, and I'm not going to run 5e again, but it should be they've converted it from D&D, old school D&D, to 5e. It contains the original adventure in there, so
Yep.
the new stuff should be a piece of piss to convert back.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
there we go. And that's what so I would plan to do.
Yeah, Tolus it's huge. It's history on Tolus that I know I can recall reading of is Tolus was actually what was the fellow's name? Monte Cook.
Yep, Monty Cook.
When he was working with the rules change or whatever from 3rd up through 3.5, he ran a 10-year-long campaign in this city. So it's got a lot of depth. It's got a lot. I don't know. Check it out. It's fun. It's neat. And again, 1E, easy peasy. I mean, anyone, especially us old vets, we could do that with BX, OSE, 1E.
Yeah.
We could do that with DCC, heck, MERP, whatever. We could.
I mean, the MERP stuff, it's designed to be very light on combat, I think. So I think getting that to, you could certainly run it as little bits and pieces. We have someone waiting in chat. Eagle Rider.
Sorry, I'm opening the door.
We've only got 3 minutes of the stream left, but are you new to my channel, Eagle Rider?
I know I found you through one of the groups I streamed with recently, but I could not remember who because I have memory issues. So I figured, screw it, I'd come up and say hi and see if I can figure it out.
Hi, Eagle Rider.
One of the groups you stream with. So who do you stream with?
I bounce all over the different geek groups, so that's why I'm trying to figure it out, because I could go from anywhere from Trekkies to gamers to fandom and art groups or anything else. So I'm sitting there going, I don't know. I found some through one of the people connected to one of my groups. That's all I remember.
Well, people who are streaming in the groups. There's Bear. Do you know Bear? Bear the Jet XGM.
No.
Mage's Musings. Sean.
Elfbait.
No. They're driving me crazy. I know I found you a couple months ago. And I've seen a few of your streams when I've been busy with it. Seen it, so I haven't been chatting.
It may have been on YouTube.
Probably.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is the crazy crashing moment, but it's like I'm going to fight the Parkinson's and I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah.
There's Hungar.
Don't worry.
There's Hungar, the Starvarian. Hungar.
Okay. Yeah.
You know Hungar.
Yay!
You know
I figured something
Hungar.
out so my brain won't go nuts all night.
Our big bearded hairy friend, the jolly Hungar.
Yeah, he's a sweetie.
He is indeed. He is. Will you be watching on Saturday?
What time?
We're playing in a game that Bear is running. There's me, Hungar, and several others. It starts at 7 p.m. my time, which is 3 p.m. East Coast of America. Okay, on Saturday.
You're over in there, so that would be at 2 here. Depends on how long it runs, because Saturdays I'm usually out hiking and exploring, so I might be back in time to see some of it.
Oh.
I work as a nature photographer. Weekends I'm usually out and about.
Swapping this. Hungar is infamous. Only women feel safe around him.
Imagine that, Hungar.
I feel safe around everyone. That's why you stay armed. I mean,
well, I'm unarmed, but I do have fists, which I choose not to use.
Fisticuff works fine. I mean,
I choose to run away.
I'm unarmed.
No, obviously over here it's a little different. Over here, it's a little different with all that sort of stuff over here. So
oh yeah, it is extremely
yeah.
different over there, actually.
Yeah.
No, it's just you were talking about city building and a lot of games and stuff, and to me, I still love the way they designed a lot of the towns and the cities in the old RPGs when I was growing up. The simple yet elegant, the ones where you'd have like climbing in rooftops to steal boxes out of people's homes and everything else was always fun.
Things like the old Baldur's Gate games where you could creep into people's houses and do you ever play those on PC?
A bit. I did play more by the time I could game. It was mostly more stuff like Shining Force style, Fantasy Stars, Final Fantasy early versions and stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't play that. I played Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, and you could break into people's houses in those as well, and nickel stuff, which is good. But
I love those old style RPGs, and I love the cute little towns they always designed in them.
Yes, yeah, and I don't know, exploring the towns is a good bit. It always, I'm a bit of a curmudgeon, and it always gets me how they've got sewers in them.
Thief was great.
Again with the sewers.
Yes, I'm a curmudgeon about that. Yes, Straw Piglet, I do indeed have lethal hands.
Listen, every time I put my hands in my pockets, I'm afraid I'm going to get busted for concealed weapons.
I knew he was going to make that joke. I was just cringing in advance when he started saying it.
No, my hands aren't lethal anymore. I haven't trained for 4 or 5 years, for 4 years now, I think. So, oh well. Need to get back to it at some point.
Yeah. Same here.
I've got to get fit again.
And for nothing else, it was worth coming up here so I know where I've found you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely lost.
Absolutely. But you have
Hungar. He's the one to blame.
But it's nice for people to pop in, but you have unfortunately joined us at what I call Pumpkin Hour.
Night.
That's fine. I get that.
Which is midnight here in Britain.
I love you guys.
Yeah, a lot of my friends are over there. I'm used to it.
Yes, yeah. And I have work in the morning.
Yeah.
So, sadly,
I love you guys.
My 3 hours are up. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Squirrel's disappeared already. We had Saxius on earlier. We had Saxius on earlier. We had Bear on earlier. Eagle Rider's come in and joined us at the end. Daniel's been with us and got his camera out for the first time on stream.
Eagle.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, everybody in chat. We've had a good old chat tonight. I will be streaming on Friday. It won't be the usual read through of a fighting fantasy book or whatever. It will be Drinking Quest, because it's a combination of my channel's 3-year anniversary, which was a couple of weeks ago, and Mage's Musing's 2-year anniversary, which was last week. So we are combining the two. Mage is running a game of Drinking Quest, and I'm just going to get sloshed.
Right, John, real quick, are you going to start that on Discord and then switch over to here? Or
yeah. I mean, I want to get people into Discord beforehand, and I'll set the stream up beforehand. I'll give the information out on Discord, and we can all meet up a little bit beforehand if possible. That would be good.
Okay, cool.
If you want to see a group of old blokes and Janet from Another Planet will be on my channel.
Janet is a sweetheart. I know her.
I've encountered her in chat before, but I've never seen her on a stream before. So
she's sweet. She'll be fun to hang out with.
I've encountered Bruce because she knows Bruce, doesn't she?
Bruce is also a sweetie. In fact, I used to stream with him more back with Makani a while back.
I've been on some of Max Liao's streams with Bruce. So
you listen, these people, you're in my language. A lot of nerds. I mean,
yeah, nerds. Yes, we're all nerds together, aren't we? That's the whole point. That's the whole point of doing this as well.
Yeah, we're all different types of nerds with different interests. Yeah. It shows that we're not all this monolith that people pretend we are.
Absolutely. Yeah. From all over the planet. We've got...
As I sit here making dream catchers, talking nerd stuff, you guys.
Yep. But anyway, I'm going to have to close the stream because I've got to be up for work in the morning. So
great night.
Thank you all for joining. Thank you, chat. See you all on Friday.
Talk to you
Cheers.
See ya. Have a good night, Eagle.
You too.